meeting of the regular meeting of the Albany Unified School District for Tuesday, May 9th, 2017. May we have a roll call, please?
Student Board Member Greensfelder.
Present.
Board Member Chutain.
Present.
Board Member Clark.
Here.
Board Member Blanchard.
Here.
Vice President Stapleton Gray.
Here.
President Black.
Here. For all those who wish to participate, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the reading of the AUSD mission and vision statement.
Second, do you have it? Sorry, just give me 1 second to pull it up. Board meeting that we had. We'll see who's quickest. Sorry. Got it.
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment addressing the needs of every student. Thank you.
Thank you. The board took no reportable action in closed session. Before we approve the agenda, I have heard that the librarians were not ready to give their presentation tonight, so we're going to take the spotlight on the library programs off the agenda. So with that correction, is there any other corrections or changes to the agenda? We have a motion.
I move the agenda with that one correction.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have Resolution 2016-17-20, Classified Employees Appreciation Week.
Thank you, President Black, trustees, student board members, and community members. It is always a joy to recognize our employees, and this time we would like to recognize our classified employees who do an outstanding job of providing support for our school district. As you know, our custodians, our secretaries, our paraprofessionals, all of our aides, everyone who participates in providing support so that our students have a wonderful learning environment in which to learn. And so I am very happy for us to be able to honor our classified employees. And I'm going to turn this over to Cynthia Tea, who is our Director of Human Resources, to discuss this item and to bring this resolution forward to the board.
Good evening. I think actually that Ms. Williams pretty much explained it all. We do have a we do have a resolution in the board packet. Next week is Classified Employees Week. We just finished celebrating the teachers last week, and so this coming week will be for all our classified employees. As she said, they are very valuable members of our staff, and we just want to make sure that we honor them every year.
Thanks. So classified employees, do you want to list which positions we're talking about for the public? They're in the resolution. I could just read them.
They
off.
are in the resolution. Those include our paraeducators, our secretaries, our custodians. I don't want to leave anybody out.
Our maintenance and grounds.
Grounds maintenance.
Child nutrition staff, instructional support staff, computer support staff. That's what's listed in there. Okay, so of course, the school district couldn't operate without these people. They're extremely important. They make a safe and healthy environment for our students. They support the teachers in the classroom and outside the classroom. And we are very grateful for all the work they do for us. Anyone else want to comment?
All read it.
You know, I just thought maybe I could read the second two whereases because they say it so nicely.
Sure.
Whereas the governing board and superintendent believe classified school employees deserve rightful recognition and public celebration for the caring deeds and contributions to our students. And whereas the classified employees support the smooth operation of offices, the safety and maintenance of buildings and property, and the safe transportation, healthy nutrition, and direct instruction of students. And all of those are so true.
Thank you. So can we have a motion to approve this resolution?
I move to approve the resolution.
Do we have a second?
I make a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That brings us to the consent calendar. Does anyone have corrections or comments, questions on the consent calendar? Charlie?
On the minutes from a previous meeting, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, I have one comment on those minutes. Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah. We received a comment from someone who indicated a desire to be recognized by name. And I think maybe it's worth noting that we don't normally recognize in the minutes by name each and every person who speaks. There is a public record. But if somebody has contributed as a volunteer to something that's appearing on the agenda, or has in other ways contributed volunteer time that deserves recognition, then I think it is appropriate. And I don't really know which of those was the case in this particular agenda item, and I would just leave it to the discretion of staff. If indeed you received assistance in preparing that particular, it had to do with a particular course, the course of studies. And if indeed somebody from the community indeed provided volunteer assistance to you, I think it would be appropriate to recognize them by name. And I would just leave it to your discretion how you want to handle that.
President Black?
Go ahead.
Actually, yes, that was Marisol Silva. And I wrote a couple of sentences that I submitted to Jackie for inclusion in the minutes. Ms. Silva is a doctoral candidate at University of California. She teaches, she's an instructor of an ethnic studies course there, and I think contributed very substantially to the content and design of the ethnic studies course that we approved that will go forward next fall at Albany High. So I hope that we can amend the minutes to include Ms. Silva.
Yes, I agree. I also submitted corrections to the minutes for this whole thing.
And in answer to your question, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that Marisol Silva, who did contribute significantly to her expertise to the ethnic studies course, does deserve to be recognized in the minutes, and we will make those adjustments and add it in there.
Okay, so with that adjustment to the minutes, do we have a motion on the consent calendar?
I move we approve the consent calendar.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Student board member report.
At Albany High School, Albany High students are well into AP testing season, with students taking exams ranging in subjects from French to computer science. Albany High School will host the annual prom dance at the Claremont Hotel on May 20th. Students will have an evening with food, drink, and music. School Care has sent a survey to all Albany High School and Albany Middle School students asking for feedback regarding which programs School Care should fund next year. It would be greatly appreciated if all students could fill this survey out. Albany High School hosted the Associated Student Body Leadership elections, and results are posted on the Albany High School website. The new appointed student board member is Navin Atanyayak, and the other student board member will be elected in August. Additionally, the Albany Middle School play is from May 11th until May 14th in the Albany High School Little Theater. The times for the play, because they differ, are posted on the Albany Middle School website. At the elementary schools, May 10th is Bike to School Day. Additionally, Parent Information Night for the Puberty Education course is from 6 to 7:30 in the Marin Elementary School Multi-Purpose Room on May 10th. The Cornell Dance-A-Rama is at Albany High School at 8:30 on May 17th. The Albany Middle School orientation for 5th grade parents is May 17th from 7 until 8 p.m. The spring musical for the elementary School students is on May 18th at 6:30. Students will be performing the Broadway junior version of The Lion King. Ocean View Volunteer Appreciation Reception is on May 17th, and that is it.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on that?
Just to amplify, so I was at the middle school today and heard the news that they couldn't announce the musical Fiddler on the Roof, which is this weekend, because it was SBAC testing and they weren't doing announcements. So if you know people out there who are thinking they ought to go to a middle school musical sometime, it's Fiddler on the Roof, great musical. Tell your friends.
Thank you. Anything else? Anyone in the audience? Okay, that brings us to Board and Superintendent Report. Superintendent?
Thank you, President Black. I actually wanted to showcase something that people may not know that much about. The Albany High School Venture Program does staff lunches on Thursdays. And I just wanted to share that because the students prepare very healthy meals. And this week, just to kind of give you a flavor of what gets prepared and the quality of the food, this week it's Cuban beef, or French West Indies chicken, or the Jamaican, which is veggie. So there's a vegetarian option. And I just wanted to read this to you because this is what made me pick the chicken. And the students write this. So the French West Indies chicken, plantains, West Indies chicken fricassee over white rice fruit cheesecake parfait. Chicken fricassee is popular throughout the Caribbean islands, with each island touting their own regional twist on it. Succulent pieces of chicken are stewed low and slow in a turmeric and chicken broth-based sauce that features potatoes and olives and is served in all its golden glory over rice. So, I mean, just, you know, I really want to celebrate the students who are in our venture program because not only do they serve very good food, but they make it so enticing. And I'm actually doing the French West Indies chicken on Thursday. And we have to pick it up. Sometimes it's delivered to your classroom, but I'm going over to actually pick up my, and it's very, $8. It's not much.
I think that, is this working? Okay, you can hear me now. I think that it would be wonderful if parents at the high school could buy a meal for a favorite teacher of their students, and so support the teachers that way. So if they have a gifting program available on the website, that would, I think it would be a way that a lot of parents would like to support the great teachers there at the high school.
I could reach out, and what I really like about it is you can pay with a credit card. You just plug it in. It's all through Square, and it's. I mean, I just really wanted to share this program because I think it's really good what the kids are doing. It's experience-based learning at its best.
Thanks. Any other board member comments? Well, I do. I was at the high school site council meeting yesterday, and I just wanted to make a couple of comments on what I learned there. They're starting work on the next year's site report, site plan. But they went over some of the items in last year's, and there are just two of them I'd like to read because this seems pretty prescient that this was in their site plan for this year. Develop protocols for using positive behavioral intervention and support. Develop a school-wide commitment to and understanding of restorative justice principles and related actions. And the other was evaluate and develop additional resources to increase the presence of racial, ethnic, or cultural background in all course content. So they're not starting over from scratch due to the things that happened this year. This is stuff that they were already working on. It's really glad to see that. We also had a report on a trauma grant that the district has had for the last several years. This grant paid for 3 groups of traumatized students, African American, Latino, and Asian. And there's a lot of really great work that's been done to help these students adjust to school and be able to continue their education despite their trauma. And I think it would be a great idea if we had a report from this group. And I think the board really needs to look at the work that they've done because the grant is ending. And if we could find money in the budget, it's really important work that would be great to continue. There's a big if there, but I think we should look at it. So it's a suggestion for an agenda item. Is there anyone else who want to second that? Okay, thanks.
It just came to mind that last weekend I was at Cazadero Music Camp with the 6th and 7th grade students. I just wanted to point out that that's a multi-night field trip involving about 100 students that band director Richard Chisholm organizes by himself. It involved probably a dozen chaperones. There were 8 mentors from the high school, and those mentors are musicians, and they not only ran incredible games and put on a show for the kids, but they also were in charge of the sectional rehearsals. So they were teaching the kids. And this is all the weekend before AP testing starts at the high school. So it was really amazing to get those high school mentors and to have them for the whole, the long weekend, because we went up on Friday morning. I wanted to point out that while the music side was definitely strong, the field trip ends with a parent concert under the redwoods up there by the Russian River. And but on the science side, the kids followed a river otter. They observed fish eggs, they watched frogs, they skipped rocks, and saw firsthand the erosive effects on the land after the huge rain year following all of the drought. There was a big landslide at the camp that was all covered up and safely roped off. I saw one boy sit on the stump beside the river and just watch it. And he stayed there still watching the river and the birds and for close to an hour. So I feel that this kind of field trip is so worthwhile for our students. And I wanted to thank Mr. Chisholm for all his work in arranging it.
Julia?
And additionally, I know, I guess I forgot to add this in my report, but the middle school choirs also went to Great America to have one of their big choir competitions, and they completely blew it out of the park. My brother specifically plays, I guess he sings now. He used to go to Cazadero with Mr. Chisholm. So Miss Stalker also runs an incredible choir program, both at the middle school and the high school, and they won, I think, in maybe all of their divisions. I'm not sure exactly, but they did a great job. I remember going to Great America when I was in choir middle school, and it's a great field trip program to support. So when we get to talk about budget items and when we talk about school care, I think something to keep in mind is those enrichment programs that Kim and I have talked about.
Thank you. Charlie?
I just wanted to second your request for a staff report on the trauma grant.
Thank you. Okay, so anything else? All right. We next come to persons to address the board on matters not on the agenda. Now, we do have 2 hot topic items that are on the agenda: elementary enrollment projections and class size, and the work that has been going on in relationship to the Instagram incident that we're titling Promoting Safe, Supportive, and Collaborative Environments for All Students. So if you're here to talk on either of those, this is not the time to do it. This is for items that are not on the agenda. But for those of you who are here for the class size discussion, how many of you are there? Yeah, a couple. So we have a sheet that Jackie will pass out. If you're here on that topic, you're invited, you're not required, but you're invited to give us your name and any comments you want to make, just so that we have a record of your opinion, because we don't have time for every one of you to get up and talk. But we do care what your opinion is, and we want to hear from you. So we will at least have memorialized the fact that you're here and how you feel about that topic. But now, before we get there, is there anyone here to speak on items that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, We'll move on to the elementary enrollment projections and effect on class size. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Black, trustees, and student board members, and everybody who's here in the audience today from the community. I do know that this community is very concerned about class size for our youngest learners. So I want to begin this staff report by saying unequivocally, our classes will not be at 28 students in kindergarten and first grade. They will not, okay? They will not be at 28. We value small class sizes for our youngest learners, and I am going to try my best to keep our class sizes as small as possible, okay? Tonight's staff report is going to be, Alan's going to present information around current enrollment, our enrollment trends. This is an enrollment process that begins in early January, and actually we have registration that goes throughout the winter, spring, and the summer. Okay, but I want to allay the concerns out there that we're going to have classes of 28 in these grades, and we will not have class sizes that large. And my goal is to keep them as small as possible. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Alan, who's going to present our information on enrollment trends as well as the process and the plan for the next year.
Thank you, Superintendent Williams. I first want to apologize for the anxiety that's felt by many families. This was mainly and teachers, I'm sorry. So I first want to apologize for the anxiety felt by many families and teachers. This was a early planning tool due to the uncertainty that we've seen over the last 2 years regarding enrollment. And with some of the news that I'll go over in the presentation, it looks like it'll continue into next year. And so, I did not fully recognize the impact that the shift in planning for the upcoming school year would cause. And so, but I do think that after I go through this presentation, we'll see that we're all on the same page. It's just how we get there that could be a little different. So to understand why I'm even crazy enough to suggest a change in how to plan for the upcoming year, we should understand what enrollment is. And so enrollment is very complex. It changes throughout the year for many reasons. It's very fluid. People move, people change jobs. There's many factors that are outside of the control of a school district that cause students to come in and out of enrollment. The other thing to note is for our 3 elementary schools, enrollment is not tied to a specific address. And so if a family lives right next door to school A, they could be assigned to school B because of capacity and other situations. And so I believe this is why many of you are here tonight, because of this chart that I developed. So this chart, I highlighted some of the concerns. So some of the concerns are noting kindergarten at 24-25 and first grade at 28. That is not what we're going to have for next year. And so I could see, there you go. See, it's not there. It's not there. And so why did I even create a chart that has those numbers? So I'm a math guy, so I think of it as equations. And so for class sizes, in its most basic form, it's the number of students divided by the number of teachers, and you get a class size. And so if we know what the number of students are, then historically we've hired teachers based on the class sizes that we wanted. And we've done that for many, many years. For the upcoming year, I am very uncertain on the number of students that we could expect for next year. And so because of that, I feel like we should we can ignore what the class sizes say on that chart because that's not what we're going to have next year, because we will adjust staffing based on the number of students that we have as it becomes more and more certain. And so some things to note is for our transitional kindergarten and kindergarten students, we really don't know how many we're going to have until we move through the enrollment process and we collect registration packets. For grades 1 through 5, historically what we've done is take a look at what the prior year K through 4 enrollment numbers are, and then we kind of we roll them up into the next year. The difficulty for the upcoming year is that uncertainty. And so 2 years ago, we saw an actual increase from kindergarten to first grade. And so we were serving 286 kindergarten students, and when we opened up the 2014-15 year, we had more first graders than we expected. Last year, we actually broke even. There were some shifts in between schools, but overall, it was very even. This current year, we actually saw a decline of 10 kindergarten students moving into first grade. And so that's not the whole reason why I decided for this shift and had a plan for the upcoming year, but this is one factor that plays into it. So the reason enrollment is uncertain is because over the past 2 years, we've lost 179 elementary students. We had 1,788 elementary students in 14-15. This current year, we have only 1,609. So that's 179 students within elementary. When we opened this year, so we saw a decline in 2015-16. When we started planning for 16-17, we thought that 15-16 was an anomaly, and we planned just like how we've always planned prior to that. When we opened up 16-17, we actually had to close 2 classes that were planned. We had to close a kindergarten class and a transitional kindergarten class. And so what that means is when we were planning for the year, we had allocations planned for staffing. We collected all the registration packets, and we divided them up into the different for the different classroom teachers. And because of how enrollment actually turned out when we opened up school, we realized that some of the families that submitted registration packets did not actually show up on the first day of school. And it was so much so that we had to close those 2 classes. We had to reassign students to different classes, and we had to reassign teachers. And so, because we want to avoid that for the upcoming year. There's a few reasons why we think for the past 2 years we've seen a decline in enrollment. First is because Marin and Ocean View Elementary would need to be rebuilt, and so I've heard families say that they're withholding their students from enrolling into Albany schools because they don't want their child's education to be impacted by construction. The other major factor that I'm concerned about for next year is the upcoming plans for UC Village. So for UC Village, historically what we've seen is that the UC Village would house postdoctorate and visiting professors for the year. And what that meant is we would see an influx of student registrations over the summer because of those postdocs and visiting professors enrolling their students for the year. Getting ready for like the new UC Berkeley semester. They've changed how they are going to house students at UC Village, in the UC Village, because they received a lot of pressure from the state on granting more undergraduate and graduate student housing. So they're now changing from postdoctorates and visiting professors, which have a higher potential for having school-age children, to only be undergraduate and graduate students. That has me cause for concern because 10% of our elementary enrollment comes from the UC Village. There's 2 kindergarten classes full of UC Village families. And so I have a meeting with the UC Village to really go over those numbers, to really see how many we can count on for the upcoming year and how many we cannot because of their housing situation. And so until I'm able to confirm those large variables, I'm not certain on the number of students that we're going to have next year. And so because of that uncertainty, I'm recommending that we move cautiously, but that as numbers are firmed up, then we make staffing adjustments. And with staffing adjustments, we receive funding based on students attending, and if we don't have the students coming and we don't have the enrollment, then our funding drops from the state. And so what the shift in the plan for the upcoming year is that we would continue to monitor enrollment closely as we do every year, but this year much more closely, I guess. And as some of the numbers firm up, then we can make some hires cautiously prior to school opening. But it's really only after school opens that we see the students attending, and then we can make adjustments and finalize what those class sizes are. But we recognize that it's not going to be 28-to-1, and it'll be very similar to what our goal has been over the past few years, which is keeping class sizes low for our youngest learners. There's still a lot to go through with our enrollment process, and so we continue to receive registration packets throughout the rest of this spring into the summer. We're still collecting and processing intent to return forms from existing students, and that will help us understand if we can count on current students to return to next year. And based on those 2 things, we can make some adjustments to staffing. If students do not attend, then we drop them after the first 3 days, and we'll finalize classroom adjustments after that. And so if there are families that, if you have a child, or if you know someone who has a child who is registering for the upcoming year, please have them communicate with us as soon as possible to help us firm up some of these numbers. And if you are or know somebody who is who has an existing child enrolled in our system who knows that they're not going to return to us next year, that is important information for us to know as well. And so with that, I have my contact information up because I tried to make this as simple as possible, and there probably are some very detailed questions, and so What I'm suggesting to respect everybody's time is if you contact me, we can schedule a phone call or a meeting to really go over some of that information because there's a lot of variables and factors that go into it.
So I want to add, before we open this up to board comments, the practice of finalizing staffing after the first day of school is a shift from our previous practice. Our error was not getting this message out to all of our staff as we should have. We should have done that right up front and told staff that this is a shift in how we are doing our staffing so that we could be more mindful of the declining enrollment and also being fiscally prudent. So to our staff who are here, I apologize. We should have gotten that information out to all of you.
Okay, we have board questions or comments. Charlie?
Well, first, I just wanted to appreciate staff for thinking about the impact of closing classes in September and for trying to be fiscally prudent. I thought it would be also worth mentioning that we do indeed receive state revenues for K through 3 class size reduction. And my understanding of those revenues is that we need to keep the average K-3 class sizes at 24 or fewer students at each and every school in order to receive those revenues. If we overshoot at any school, we lose it for the whole district. And
Correct.
So, I think that's something for us to keep in mind. I'm sure that we don't want to risk losing those revenues because I think it could be something as close as maybe close to $700,000 a year.
It is about 800,000.
800,000. So we definitely don't want to risk losing those revenues.
Absolutely.
And I know you don't want to risk losing those revenues too.
That is correct.
I think maybe what that's leading me to ask is, could we get maybe a recalibration of our staffing requirement in June before we have to adopt the budget for next year, so that we have a reasonably realistic budget?
Before you answer that, I just have a quick announcement. The fire department has asked me to ask you to keep the doorways clear and the center aisle clear. Thank you. Go ahead, Alan.
So the answer to your question is yes. We can definitely recalibrate and look at prior to the June adoption budget to really look at as numbers are a little bit more updated and solid, then we'll be able to make much better decisions around class sizes.
Thanks. Kim?
Yeah, I wanted staff just to go through the different strategies we use when there's enrollment at a site that doesn't divide up neatly into a reasonable class size. So can you talk about those processes, please?
I can do it. Yeah. Thank you. So yes, if we have enrollment either increase or decrease by, we'll say, less than a full class size, then we have to make some decisions on how to distribute some of those students. This could potentially cause combination classes. In this case, it would be a kindergarten first grade combo. Another option, which I do not like, is moving a student to another school or moving a family to another school. And that presents its own set of problems because, there's a process for how students come to each school site. So if there's a sibling at the site, that adds to the complication how we do that. And we're not in favor of moving families, especially if they have siblings or if they start in kindergarten, obviously going to first grade. The issue around combination classes, and I've spoken to a few teachers about this, combination classes are difficult for several reasons. One, the teacher has to teach 2 different curriculums. So I'll give an example. And there are a lot of teachers here, so please nod if you think I'm getting this right. If you have a second, third grade combo, you have to teach a second and third grade curriculum. And I'm seeing nods, okay. And that third grade curriculum can be vastly different than the second grade curriculum. There are certain pivotal years. So you look at if you have to create a combination class, you really want to do that only in sort of an extreme circumstance. So one of the things that I need to weigh is the balancing of keeping class sizes as low as possible while not creating a combination class. And I think our teachers can weigh in which they would prefer or not prefer. I think it would be preferred to have none of those, correct? Having low class sizes and no combos. But that becomes one of the possibilities if there is a less than 20 student drop.
Can you describe if we have any current combo classes in the district, or maybe like if we have had I know we've had a 2-3 combo a couple of years ago at Marin, correct?
We did have combination classes. We didn't have them this year. And again, it was really an attempt to not have that. We did have a combo class. I'm trying to remember if it was I know there was a first year, but it was done sort of as a looping at one school site. We have had combo classes in the past. Again, they're not ideal classes to have.
Okay.
Anyone else? Ross?
So I'll beat 30 other people in the room to the punch to say I found the communication from the administration extremely poor on this issue. We're hearing stuff today, now, in this session, that you knew when all this started breaking. We have class size reduction funding. We're not going to jeopardize that. So putting a ceiling of 24 out there would have been an easy call. Or the board ought to have heard, oh, well, this is maybe in play. I hope it's not in play. I got about 50 emails. And I am going to, as a policy, respond to everybody who sends me something. And it might be nothing more than waiting till I know what I can say and pointing you at a board packet, which I did to about 40 of you, in part because I worry about what I can say. And if a board member is not sure what they can say, that should worry you all too. What we're hearing tonight could have been said probably about a week ago or 5-6 days ago. It could have kept you all doing other things like getting your kid through your homework and all that. So I'd like to recommend, one, be aware of how things are taken. When the first 5 or 10 emails come in, assume you did something wrong because there shouldn't be this need to urgently find things out. Yes. 2, get an account on Nextdoor. I understand that the city can have one and they won't give one to the district, but an individual could be there, and there needs to be an individual, not on the board, but for the district, who is aware of what's on Nextdoor and can respond directly to anything posted on Nextdoor. Not just going through the city where we can push out a press release, but respond to a comment. If someone says, I hear they're pink slipping teachers already because of class size reduction or class size growing to size 28, that's got to be responded to right away, because otherwise it becomes a fact. And that fact got a lot of people into this room. A caution to you all out there, so I'm one of the followers of the Albany, California Elementary Families Facebook page, me and 115 other people. Who's running that? I assume it's a well-meaning family member in the Albany community, but it doesn't say. Some of you all may know. I'm really hoping the person is well-meaning, but be very cautious in this age of Macedonian hackers and whatnot, that what you're hearing is what you ought to be hearing versus what someone wants you to hear. But I'd really like the administration to be out there too. It doesn't. It's like hearing we've got a population of a couple hundred people in the district who speak Hmong and not English very well, and not saying, wow, we should probably put press releases into Hmong too. Well, we have a bunch of people who are out there next door, and they're getting it as their primary source. We probably have a lot of people we could reach via texting, but I don't think I'm going to insist that everyone be texted. When there are 100+ people out there in a forum, get in the forum too. It's my strong recommendation. And when statements are made that are wrong on their face, because we do have answers we can give at the board meeting, and we could give today, give them right away. Oh, and a last point. So we've got a ton of other things happening right now. We'll have discussions about the Instagram issue, a whole bunch of other things we got on the board agenda, teacher contract. It worries me when I hear people say enrollment may be down because of the uncertainty about Ocean View and Marin. And we said shortly after the bond election in this forum that we would talk about the consequences of sort of what would it be entailed to knock down a school and replace it, because that would be hugely disruptive. And we haven't had that conversation yet. And I presume that conversation will have to actually precede knocking down a school and rebuilding it by a year or two. So if we're really talking about doing school construction, we probably ought to get to that discussion more sooner than later, maybe the first thing, start of the new school year.
Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to comment on how everything went down too. Ross had brought up something about Nextdoor and there's Facebook and other, mediums out there. But some of the comments out there was basically saying that the board has decided to raise class sizes, and that's news to me. The board is yet to have these discussions, let alone decide anything. And the first time I heard about the class sizes being increased was from many emails sent to me from concerned parents. And I would really like to thank the parents for informing me, but it would have been nice to have been informed first from the staff. I explained when I spoke to Val last week, it's very frustrating for us to find out from the public first, and how can we respond if we don't know what's going on? So I'm making a request that you guys let the people on the board know what's going on, especially something this deep and important to the community. For them to find out is good, but we should find out too, So I'm please asking that it doesn't happen again, because this is the second time. I've been on the board for just a little while, and this is the second time that I feel kind of blindsided by something that I think I should have been aware of. And after the first time it happened, I brought it up, and I was very discouraged that it happened a second time. So I hope it doesn't happen again.
We will make sure that you're updated immediately.
Others? Okay, I have a couple of things I want to say before we open this up to public comment. First, as has been mentioned, we have a lot of other things we need to do. We have a lot of business. We all received many, many emails. We all know, we really know how you feel about increasing class sizes. We all want to keep them as small as we can. There never was a decision to raise class sizes to 28. That was a misunderstanding based on a chart that Mr. Gard put out, but that chart, it was like he had the number, a guess at how many students was the most we could have. He had the number of teachers that he was sure he could hire, and if you divided one and the other, you came out with 28. But there was never any intention to put 28 kids in the class. So the board didn't hear about it because there was never any such decision. I know it looked like that. And that chart wasn't intended for public consumption because that's not what the chart was supposed to mean. I apologize for all the confusion. I also didn't even know that chart existed until it started to be circulated and started to show up in emails. But the reason that we didn't know about it was because there was no decision attached to it.
Right.
Okay, so given that, I understand how upset people are about just the thought that we could have that many kids in a class. And I just want to say we do have other things we need to get to. So I would ask, the superintendent has something to say.
So I want to say this very carefully, because I think if I put out a number, people are going to say, she said this many, okay? I will do my very best to keep kindergarten and first grade class sizes to 24.
Or less.
Okay, I am not going to
24 or
guarantee
less,
24
right?
or less, or less. I am not going to make a guarantee because classes don't come in neat packages necessarily of 24 to 1 or 20 to 1. I'm going to do my best to keep it at 24 or less. Okay? But what I want to make sure is that if it ends up being that I have one class ends up being at 23 and one that ends up at 25, I want to be very mindful of that. So that's why I hesitate to actually say a number, but it is my goal to keep it at 24 or less. And I'm looking to our CBO, and he's nodding because now I'm saying it publicly, okay, at 24 or less, if I possibly can.
Okay, thanks. So As I said, we have limited time for people to talk. I would like first, anybody who is still confused about something, who didn't have a question answered, come up here to ask your question. Then people who just want to emphasize how much they hate the idea of having 28 kids in a class, you're welcome to come up, but we're going to really ask you to keep your comments, questions, whatever, to 3 minutes or less, and be mindful of the fact that if you take longer, someone else will not get the opportunity to speak, because we can't do this all evening. We will cut it off after a while. So with that understood, also, if you just want to say, I agree with what that other person said, that's fine. Then just say, I agree. You don't have to repeat what they said. Thanks. Go ahead.
Sure. Sonia Herbert. I've been an Albany resident for 20 years, and I have an intern kindergartner. So I appreciate this discussion and would really appreciate getting information from you that's a little more clear earlier, because I think a lot of this just could be let go of if you tell things a little more straight. One thing that is very unclear, and I think led to some of the confusion online, is exactly how this decision is made and who gets to make it. Is it just the school district? Is it the board? At what point is that decision made? I understand that enrollment is an ongoing process and that average daily attendance funds teacher salaries and all of that. But at what point? You know, I'm very aware that there's no board meeting in July when you will have fuller, so there's no public input at that time. But is this a school district? Is this a board decision? At what point will that be made?
Okay, can I jump in just for a second here? The board typically does not make decisions about how many kids in a class. That is not the board level. What the board will have a conversation about, many conversations about, are budget priorities. And when we have those discussions, class size is one of the things that affects budget. So the board at that point will probably still not say X number of kids per grade, but could say, okay, keeping class sizes low is a higher priority than library aids or something else, but somebody's ox is going to get gored.
Right, and I appreciate the comment that after 24 kids, we lose state funding, so that's a budget level decision the board would make. That's a budget level decision. So the promise or the suggestion that keeping it at 24 is your goal is actually going to trigger a major loss. So that is an accurate statement, that 24 over loses its study a huge amount of money.
Right, but the specific decisions for specific classes, that's done by the staff.
That I understand, but I'm saying there are other reasons to keep it at 24 is what we just heard.
Yes, I think I can answer your question in two parts. So I'm hoping that by the end of June, well, actually, we're going to be looking at numbers throughout the weeks that come up. I'm hoping that by the end of June, we will have much more solid numbers. But let me answer the question in the second vein. If we have to look at class size, keeping class size low versus maybe a combination class, then what we do is we're going to need to talk to our principals and our teachers, because it may be that one site might get a combo class, another site may not, and that's a discussion that we would have with our teachers about which is preferable. So that gets done talking with our site administrators, but also with the teachers at that particular grade level.
Okay, and one suggestion, Ellen, I would have on the chart, one thing that was confusing is that you already divided the kindergartners between the schools when you may not need to reduce class sizes if it's treated as an aggregate number and one school gets 4 kindergarten classes and one school gets 3. It's a different math equation, but it may save some teacher jobs and have lower salary.
Thank you.
Kim?
Okay. Thank you, Sonia. I realize it's your date night tonight with your... I want to ask a point of clarification. So for the low class size state funding, that's a site-based average, right? So you average K first, second, and third, and that average has to be under 24 for each site, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So the grade span K3 within a given site. So each given site needs to have an average of 24 or below.
Okay. Thank you. So that does leave the possibility, for example, that a third grade class might run at a higher class size because, you know, your kindergartners would typically be the lowest class size.
Correct.
Thank you.
Just another little data point. I've mentioned this before, but it probably would be worth looking into. St. Jerome's will be closing. We don't know what percentage of that population are Albany residents who would opt when they finally decide, well, maybe we should go into the public school we've got a right to. So it might be worth reaching out to St. Jerome's and just asking, what's your current kindergarten enrollment? What's your first grade enrollment? Where from Albany? What do those numbers look like? And can you guess, you know, how that might change?
Thanks, Jacob.
So I just wanted to make sure the grade span adjustment that we're talking about, the 24 to 1, what year does that have to be done by? 2020 to 21? Because
So it's complex, but it's essentially we have to make progress towards 24 to 1 when our local control funding formula is fully implemented. But the starting point is what our class sizes were prior to the local control funding formula being implemented. And so because we had low class sizes prior to the local control funding formula, we treat it as essentially the same as our goal, our ceiling is 24 to 1 as a average for each grades for that.
Are you penalized, for example, next year if we go over 24 to 1?
Yes, we would be.
Okay.
We would lose the entire funding, which is about $800,000.
All right, thank you.
Please.
My name's Ann Griffith. I teach third grade at Ocean View, and I'm also on our Albany Teachers Association negotiating team. So my point, I'm sure other people are going to speak on very important points, but my point is that I've worked with Alan, and I think Alan is very good at his job, but I also realize Alan is not an administrator. So I'm feeling like it was when we had our staff meeting, we were presented these numbers as if they were facts and this is what was going to happen. And I feel like that none of the administrators actually looked at it and discussed it before it was presented as fact. So, and now there's a lot of backtracking because of the response that everyone got. So I'm just confused why, Alan's a numbers person and he did his numbers, but where's the part where you think about the numbers and think about the impact and then present carefully to staff? I feel like that step was missed.
Could I comment? And that's a very good point. I think when I was reflecting on what happened, that if the principals would like, if they're, that I can work with the principals to talk about what the allocations are every year so that everybody's on the same page about reasoning and why, and that I'll remove the class size averages on the chart if it's not something that should be looked at.
I mean, I think that's great, but we already had our meeting and it was already presented like this was going to happen. So I think that was shocking to a lot of people. So
I understand.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My name is Annie Alcott. I'm a second grade teacher at Cornell, not a 2-3 teacher anymore. Was one of those combo classes. And sometimes it doesn't pay to do your homework because I wrote a bunch of stuff out and now on the ground facts are changing. And I don't know about the rest of the teachers, but my head is spinning a little bit. And the last 2.5 weeks have been extraordinarily stressful at our site. And I see you nodding your heads, but I really need you to understand how stressful it has been. We have been beginning to place students in classes, and we had to move teachers and tell temporary teachers to dust off their resumes, and they might not have jobs, and they're going to be 25 at kindergarten and 28. And I see that there was a budget problem, but we have to think as teachers, we have to think pedagogically. And I really hope that the board will think about our kids first before numbers get out in the community like that. Those numbers should never have been considered beyond a budget discussion. I just don't understand how this happened, and I don't think you understand the stress that it has caused. I really don't. And I guess when I heard that Maybe we're talking about 25 students or fewer in a classroom. That is really a relief, but I'm still confused. So are you saying that the principals should not be proceeding full steam ahead with reducing the number of classes and reconfiguring staffing? So that's been happening up until today, and I don't think the principals pulled that out of thin air. And we're, you know, if you're asking if we don't know what's going on, yeah, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what to do tomorrow about who's teaching what and how many kids are in each classroom. And I have to say that all of this comes on the heels of this calamitous fallout of the racist and misogynist Instagram incidents and the horror of children giving each other Nazi salutes at the high school. It comes after the subsequent formation of a task force with over 100 members. Never heard of a task force with over 100 members, very few of whom are teachers. And I think you want to ask yourself, why haven't very many teachers volunteered? It comes after we've heard about several families of color who are talking about moving out of Albany. So in the wake of all this talk of high class sizes, low class sizes, the doublespeak, the tangled web of unfortunate events, and poor problem solving, I have to say that I am losing confidence in a district to which my esteemed colleagues and I have devoted the very best of our abilities, have devoted our dedication, our hours, our time, our years, and our good faith. I'm losing confidence and I'm losing hope, and this makes me so sad beyond measure. And it makes me sad for myself. It makes me sad for the parents who are here. It makes me sad for the teachers, but it really makes me sad for the students, especially the most vulnerable among us. So I hope things are going to get better.
So before you speak, I really want to respond to that. First of all, to our teachers, I'm very sorry. I apologize to all of our teachers. I know this is stressful, and when we talk about planning for the rest of this year, I will make sure that we meet with our 3 elementary principals and talk about what it would look like to do this, the classes at 24:1 and the staffing. And you're right that there have been a lot of events that have happened over the last few months. And that does not excuse the fact that I should be paying more attention to this. And so I will be paying very, very close attention to class sizes and to making sure that we keep these as small as possible. And if I can keep them smaller than 24:1, I will do so. I've been going over the numbers with Alan and looking at how we can make this work. I'm going to try as much as possible not to have the combination classes. I am hearing very clearly that combo classes are not optimal. Can I do everything and guarantee a class size of 20:1 or 21:1? I can't make that guarantee to you. But I will tell you that I will monitor the class sizes and I will make sure that we report out accurately to staff. And so I'm giving you my sincere apologies that I did not pay more attention to this and looking at the class sizes more carefully.
Okay, the other part of the question, I think, was, are the principals in sync with you at this point? Do they know what they should be doing in terms of planning for next year?
I think I can say with some certainty that the 3 elementary principals are in agreement that if we keep it to 24:1, that is a number that can work. And I'm seeing some nodding from our elementary principals. And I want to address the piece about the class size averages. Just because it's a class size average does not mean that I want to staff one class at 23 and one at 26. I think there's a certain threshold that a class size can bear. So the goal really is to try to keep each class at 24:1 or lower.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry. It's okay. 1 second. Okay. So I just want to understand from what I heard from Ms. Alcott's speech that when this came out, it caused the teachers to begin to plan for just 3 classes at their site. And so planning went forward on that basis. Okay, and now what I'm hearing is that you're going to meet with the principals and you guys will revisit that idea?
We will definitely revisit it. So and again, I'm speculating here, if it means that if we staff at 24 kids in a class, if that means that we have to have 4 at each site, then they would need to plan for that. Okay, but please understand that if the enrollment does not come in on the first day of school, adjustments have to be made. And these are things I'm also very mindful of, and I want you folks to know this, is that no one wants, and this was clearly shared with me by teachers in the fall when I opened the class and we had to close the class, okay? That teachers spend a lot of time preparing for their kids in their classroom. Class lists are made, table plates are made, name plates are made, all kinds of preparation goes in there. And to have kids start off with their teachers, and then if I have to collapse a class and shuffle kids, that has its own set of impact to kids and to the teacher. And it's not like I can just say, well, one teacher's going to go away and no longer teach, I'm making this up, guys, kindergarten. If I have to move that teacher to another grade level, that teacher's just spent all summer preparing for that grade level. So I just want you to know I'm mindful of that as well. And I've been reminded of that by teachers in the fall that says we prepared for something, now I might have to shift into something else.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay, hi, I'm Stephanie Best, and we moved to Albany when I was 7 months pregnant with my now kindergartner, and we moved to Albany because we really want to support public education. So I just want you to know that that's where we're coming from. We made a financial decision to move into an expensive area because we wanted to go to the public schools here, and we probably could have paid less somewhere else, maybe gone to private school, but we want to support public education. Last year, Albany Unified School District asked citizens to pass bond measures B and E, and at the time it was explained to me at the time that state funding would have paid for the seismic upgrades that we needed, but they wanted to pass a bond measure because they were planning for the future. And from the FAQ page on those bond measures, it says the number of students in our district has increased by 900 students since 2001 and will continue to grow. Additional classrooms are needed to accommodate growing student enrollment. And our taxes are going to go up, not by an insignificant amount. And over the next 30 years, we kind of ballpark that that's about the equivalent of a Tesla 3 before rebates. So that's a big chunk of change that we're investing. But then I was really, really surprised to get the update of the enrollment on May 2nd, which says that enrollment for Albany Unified School District has historically been stable. However, in the past 2 years, we've seen a decline in elementary enrollment of about 10%. Now, that's the past 2 years. And I understand that there's some flexibility, but we're making very expensive decisions based on numbers. We have to. But to me, having a small class size is much more important than putting a lot of money into a building, which may be overbuilt. And so with the fiscal responsibility, I hope we take into consideration being fiscally responsible for the citizens. And there's just a real disconnect to me between those two statements, and that's what I find confusing.
Thank you. That is confusing. Two things from what I heard you say. We were hoping to get money from the state for seismic work, but that never materialized. We may never see any money from the state, but it never would have paid for everything. The other side of that is the bond money, unfortunately, the way the state structures things, we can't use bond money for classes, for teachers, and we can't use parcel tax money for building. So they're just separate. The bond money, we passed the authority to sell the bonds. We haven't sold all the bonds. And we don't have to if it turns out that enrollment isn't increasing and we don't need the capacity. But all of our schools are overcrowded now, so we do need to add some capacity. So that's a complicated answer, I know. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Alan Chan. I am a parent of a kindergartner and a second grader, currently at Marin Elementary. And like the previous parent, we moved here because of the excellent public schools system here. And also, it's such a great community here where whenever there's a proposition for like LL before B&E, that the people here really care about schools, and we're all willing to put in the money to make sure that our class sizes are small. And I really am happy about the community here. Alan, thank you for your presentation. And like you, I'm also a numbers guy too. And I really kind of dug into some of the data, and I looked at the California State's website also, and looking at some of these figures. And I was concerned about the accuracy of the staff report projections, and I know it's a very tricky thing to do, but I was concerned that a lot of these projections were really based on the figures from 2 years ago, and 2 years ago was when the schools in Albany kind of hit a peak, and it's gone down, but there's been fluctuation over the years too. And for example, if I were to pick 8 years ago, I could say, oh, we're actually at a 2.5% increase this year. So if you look at it that way, or if you take an average of the last 10 years, we're about 3.6% below average, which is somewhat typical of what fluctuations would be. And just last year, measures B and E, when you gave a presentation and explained what the situation was in your analysis of it, you talked about, as previous parent mentioned, the increase of 900 students since 2001, and you also referred to the 2035 general plan that projected a 10% increase in population in Albany, and a future addition of 600 students. Before that, you also made a comment about the schools currently being overcrowded, and that's why it's important that we pass measures B and E to account for the current situation of overcrowded. So I bring this up because I know everyone is concerned about this decline in population in the past 2 years, but my concern is that if we're focused all our energies on how we're going to take into account this decrease, and because projections are difficult, and if the numbers are actually about the same or slightly higher, then I'm worried that we're waiting until August, and then, so, oh my goodness, we got to hire a lot of teachers, and who's available, who hasn't already found a job that can come here. And I know there's attrition too, so it's not just if we status quo and wait for the numbers to come in, wait for the numbers to come in. If we wait too long, then if we want the best and the brightest, it's better to have some time to do so and be able to prepare for that. And I don't know if it's true about the pink slips and those kind of things, but that's the type of things that really worry people, that not just attrition then. We've got attrition, because I know in my school we got retirements, we got people moving on, but then there's also people who are being let go. So that's a big concern. And then one other real quick thing, I know I got 15 seconds left, was I just don't understand why, and I know you put the X's through K in one, but I don't understand why you selected those, because if you look at the first grade from your own numbers, your own projections, it was 239 first graders right now, and you're projecting 254 next year. And so I don't understand why that was selected. Thank you very much for listening to my comments.
Ellen, do you want to?
Hi.
Do you have an answer?
Because enrollment fluctuates throughout the year and it's fluid, today's enrollment is different than the 2016-17 enrollment that was shown in the chart. The tables that were on the board backup were like the state official numbers, because the state recognized how fluid enrollment is, and so I wanted to be consistent throughout the years on what the changes were. And for projection for next year of 254 first graders, that's based on current enrollment for kindergarten being at 254.
What? Oh, go ahead, Val.
Well, I want to address another issue that Mr. Chen brought. Thank you, by the way, for sending your emails to us and for asking the questions tonight. We try very, very hard to hire back any of our teachers who are on a temporary contract. So a teacher who's on a temporary contract is released at the end of the year because the contract is for 1 year. And we try really hard to let teachers know, hopefully by the end of the school year, if they will be offered employment to come back or not, which is why I'm really hoping that by the end of June, we will be able to do that. I may not be able to do it before the last day of school, but my goal is to see if we can try and bring any teacher that our principals want to bring back who are on a temporary contract, that we can do so. And I know Ms. Atia is here, I think she's still here, around the issue around teachers who receive or employees who receive layoff notices is if they are on a categorically funded program, then they would receive a layoff notice. But temporary teachers are released at the end of the year because they are on a 1-year contract. Sorry. Oh, thank you, Ms. Ati. I wasn't sure if you were still here.
Okay, so there's a difference between layoffs and temporary contracts. So there were no teachers laid off. A layoff is when you have a reduction in force and you need to reduce staff. We do have people who are temporary teachers. They have a one-year contract because they are taking the place of somebody who is on leave. So there were no layoffs. I want to make sure everybody understands that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Kim?
I have one more. Okay, regarding the enrollment question, Alan, I have found out since I've been on the board, which was December, that there's a particular day, I think in September or October, that sets the sort of the official enrollment number for the school year. But of course, that's just a snapshot in time. And although that's used on many documents and for budget planning or whatever, the actual enrollment continues to fluctuate, you know, as people walk in the door and as people walk out of the door too. So where our enrollment stands right now could be significantly different from what was set on that one-day snapshot back in September. October. October. Okay. It's just something to know because the workings of school financing are incredibly complex.
Okay, thanks. I just want to say, I'm sorry to say this, but we have a lot more things we need to get to tonight, we have a lot of things we need to get to tonight, including a report from the students on social media literacy. I'm going to cut this off at 8:30, so please try to keep your comments as short as possible to let as many people as possible speak, and I'm going to ask the board to refrain from saying anything else to let as many of you talk as possible. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Travail. I have an incoming kindergartner and a rising third grader who's been doing homeschooling for my upcoming kindergartner because she's worried about the class sizes. I'm not kidding, we've got a homeschool program. I'm also a BUSD literacy coach in middle school, and I see the effects of when students have not had what they need early on. And I want to know, I think the most important thing for me is how you're going to support these teachers whose class sizes are going to be different, people who have had to switch their grade level. So they were first grade, now they have to learn kindergarten curriculum. And how are you going to support those combo classes? Because it does seem like whatever the case, that's where we're headed. So how are you going to be creative about supporting those teachers? Because they are what make Albany amazing. That is why we are here. I've had fantastic teachers every one of my 3 years, and I think we need to be very creative about how we're going to support our teachers. I also wonder if we can be creative about maybe recruiting a few more students into our district. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but maybe we need to think outside the box. Maybe we need to go offer that contractors to the school can let their kids come. I don't know what it is, but obviously we have an enrollment problem that we need to address because we know that UC Village is going to be an effect on us. It's 10%. So be creative.
My name is Dora Rios. I am an educator and I teach first grade. Yes. I am a parent of 3 kids in the Albany School District. I have 24 students in my class now, first grade. I have to tell you, it is already difficult for me to teach first grade curriculum, the rigorous Common Core curriculum, hands-on activities, small group instruction. It is already hard. So just the thought, in my mind that the class size can be increased up to 28, it is disturbing to me. And I'm sure it was for many teachers and parents. I had 28 students years ago when I taught kindergarten, and it was chaotic. It was extremely stressful, and it wasn't quality education. It wasn't, I have to tell you. And I felt terrible at the end of the year because I felt that I failed. And I don't think I did fail. I think it was just too many kids in my class. So I need to tell the school board and the school district that when you consider budget, class size matters, and it should be one of your top priorities. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dina Yu. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Ocean View Elementary, and I also have a kindergarten son who will be in first grade in the fall, so he's also impacted by this. And I think I just want to speak to communication and the importance of, if you're going to make a decision and say the number's 24, you need to get on the phone and talk to the principals tonight, because tomorrow I'm scheduled to build classes, and I was told that we were supposed to take 4 current kindergarten classes and turn it into 3 first grade classes. So that's what I'm being asked to do. And I had a meeting in the afternoon today, 2:15 with Ms. Georgeson, and she said that's what we're going to have to do. In addition to that, we are supposed to go to 3 kindergarten classes at Ocean View, which means that one of the permanent teachers, the only position left is 5th grade. So a kindergarten teacher having to go to 5th grade, and we're getting together and trying to make a decision about that. So I feel so strongly that a decision needs to be made right away. Communication needs to take place so that we're not spending hours of our time building these classes only to have to change it again. We can't wait until the fall. We just cannot.
Okay, so we have 2 of our principals here, 3, but I will send out. I will send out a message at the end of the board meeting that principals should be staffing at 24 to 1. And at 24 to 1. 2 of my principals are here. They're nodding yes, 24 to 1. I will make sure that Ms. Georgeson gets that message, and I'll send it out before I leave this room tonight.
So, but as a concerned kindergarten teacher,
yes,
what does that mean as far as we have 3 classes slotted per site? Is that going to change, or are we going to continue anticipating 3 because that impacts our job?
Yeah. One of the difficulties is we have the names of kindergarten students who we assume are going to be first graders. If there is a drop in enrollment because of UC Village or whatever, we don't know which students are going to show up and which ones are not. And so, and also which ones would be at this school versus that school. And so I'm trying to work with UC Village on trying to firm up some of that variable. But as as I said, we want to ensure that we are going to have class sizes of 24 or below as an average for K3 for K3. And so what I'm not clear on is,
does that translate to 4 classes?
Right, because we don't know we don't know the numbers of kindergarten until we kind of go through that
So I guess
process.
here's a thought. What about making kindergarten class sizes even smaller?
Okay, we have one more speaker. Thank you.
I'd like to propose that we don't cut this off after I speak.
I'm
I think it's
sorry.
really unfair because this issue is profoundly important.
This is important,
to
and
a
so is
lot of us.
everything else.
Well,
Please,
given the
don't waste
given
your
the
time.
science
Please
here that
just
all say
say
class
what you came
size
to say.
matters, I might think that this issue is proportionately significant, at least. The thing that is really striking to me is that there has not been any discussion of the massive body of academic literature about the impact of class size on K through 3 especially. In the STAR study done in Tennessee, class sizes with students of 15 outperformed their cohorts by a factor of 2. They acquired reading and math skills at twice the rate. You can also look at the SAGE study in Wisconsin. It's backed by articles by Moyner, Mitchell, and Zohori. And like the impacts, these are lasting throughout junior high and high school. And personally, I can attest to the fact, given that I have a son in kindergarten and twin girls at Cornell, that I have teachers in this room who have made a tremendous impact in their lives. And I had a daughter who was painfully shy, who now has her voice, who now isn't afraid, who now is an avid reader. I had a son who was very precocious, but had a very hard time with his transition into kindergarten. And his teacher made him love school and called my wife almost daily for a while. Now, I'm happy, like Mr. Chen, like Stephanie, I'm happy to pay a premium to live here. I'm happy to pay higher taxes. My wife has volunteered over 100 years, sorry, over 100 hours every year that we've been here. And I'll knock on doors to get people to pass any proposition. But like, I don't know how the hatchet landed on this. If you look at like the marginal value, like or marginal cost, marginal value, it feels like you are hurting our students worse by reducing class size for these grade levels than you would at any other level. Anyway, that's what I'd say.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is promoting safe, supportive, and collaborative environments for students and staff.
Okay, so let me do this. Please, let me do this, okay? I'm going to sit with Alan, and Dina, thank you very much for sharing what you guys need to start doing tomorrow, okay? I'm going to sit with Alan, whether it be tonight and or tomorrow morning, to look at what the impact, and when I mean impact, I don't mean like bad impact, okay? What the situation will be if we kept the 4 classes at kindergarten and kept the 4 classes at first grade, okay? Now, hang on before you start clapping. Okay? I appreciate the applause, really I do, and I could use it right now. But I'm gonna look at the impact. Please understand, I want to keep class sizes low. And if it means that I have to keep, it ends up being at 20-1, I'm going to try to keep class sizes as low as possible. And I want to see what it's gonna take if I have to keep a 4th class at first grade and at kindergarten. Please understand that that opens up the possibility that in the fall, if the numbers of the students who actually come in, who actually attend versus enrollment, that there may have to be adjustments there, and it might mean the closing of a class, and it might mean a combination class. Okay, but I guarantee you, I will work on this tonight until they kick me out of here. Maybe we'll sit out in my car and do it. But I'm going to look at seeing what it would look like to have 4 classes. Please understand, I will try my very best, but I cannot make any guarantees to you because I think that would be wrong. Okay, but do you hear from me and see from me that I'm going to do my very best to keep them low? Okay? And I'm very sorry that there's... I don't want you to lose confidence in our ability to communicate with you. I don't. It was never intended that we were going to put classes at 28-1, and I really do apologize, okay? I'm going to try and keep them as low as I possibly can, okay?
Thanks.
That helps.
Okay. Promoting safe, supportive, and collaborative environments for all students and staff.
Thank you. At the last board meeting, trustees asked if we would come up at every board meeting and provide an update on safe and inclusive schools and some of the work that we are doing to make sure that our students are provided a safe learning environment. So I've asked Marie Williams to give us an update, and she'll be doing this staff report at each one of our board meetings. And then there's a couple of pieces that I want to add because that just came in that were not, it didn't make it in time for us to post the packet. So I'll turn this over to Ms. Williams.
Good evening.
Just speak loudly, please.
Okay. Good evening, Superintendent Williams, board members, and community. As Superintendent Williams indicated, the purpose of this staff report is to provide you all in the community with information about the activities that have been taking place recently to promote and maintain safe, supportive, and collaborative environments for all of our students and for our staff. You may recognize these words. They are taken directly from our district's mission, and we thought it very appropriate to take this phrase from our mission as we communicate with you about the work that we are doing to move our schools forward from the events that have occurred recently. I want to start by saying that the information that we will be providing to you is by no means all inclusive. We attempted to gather some key points, some highlights to share with you this evening, but even in the time that has lapsed since the board agenda packet was posted, there have been many other things that have taken place in our community to promote safe, supportive, and collaborative environments for students. An example is on Saturday, well over 100 families, Albany families, attended a community engagement event at Ocean View Elementary School hosted by the Hispanic Latino Parent Engagement Group. I had the opportunity to be there and saw that families were connecting and engaged and happy to be there and having fun playing games. Today I received an email from the principal of the middle school who shared an initiative that was started spontaneously where students and staff members took pictures with positive messages that they posted around the school. And so as we go through these updates, I do want to emphasize that these really are snapshots. They're not meant to be all-inclusive. There's a lot more that's taking place than can be recorded here or can be reported in 15 minutes. So tonight, we're going to focus on some key points. Peter Parenti is going to provide an update on the work that has taken place to date regarding the formation of a task force. And so I'd like to give you the opportunity, Mr. Parenti, to kick us off.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Marie Williams. The task force, or the formation of a task force, is in the planning phase, but a lot of progress has been made on that front. We have an announcement I've been putting out each Friday afternoon before the weekend, asking anybody who's been interested to respond to a survey and to pass the word that we're still looking for candidates, anybody who's interested in serving on the task force. To this date, we have 76 adults who are not staff who have expressed interest, 76 community members. We have 6 staff members, principals and teachers, and then we have 41 high school students who've expressed interest in serving on the task force. The date has been set as May 16th. We've booked the facility, the Albany Community Center. It's the largest room that I could find in the community that was still available. Whenever somebody was responding, there was a chance to respond to some survey questions just to kind of get a feel for the types of things that the people were interested in working on. I'm going to list for you about 6 topics, all of which got a lot of response, and then I'll tell you the top few topics. So these interested parties are wanting to work on topics like parent engagement, student engagement, staff engagement, digital citizenship, curriculum development, policy, and organizational leadership, as well as overarching steering committee. There would be at least 27 people who said that they could actually help oversee such a massive effort and coordinate with subcommittees. The top two most important topics are student engagement and curriculum development. The activities that we're going to have for May 16th are really an orientation work. We don't intend this work to be very short-lived. We want it to be systemic change, so this is going to take a longer effort. So in that regard, 3 general activities are planned for that evening. The first would be a vision setting and a tone setting, that this is work that we're engaged in for the long haul and for the future, and we want it to be hopeful, and we want it to be cooperative, and we want it to include as many voices as possible. A second activity is to engage participants who attend to choose their top 3 priorities and try to find out if there's a way to get them into similar or equal size subcommittee groups, thereby giving everybody a chance to work on their strength and or their topmost interest. And then the third is, I've received some feedback that the term task force is problematic for some. The feedback says that the term sets a tone that it's short-lived, and force gives a tone that it might be forceful or aggressive work instead of collaborative, inclusive work. So the final activity will give a chance for us to rename the group. So May 16th, and then looking forward to orient towards an activity in June, a potential series of learning opportunities over the summer, but really getting more work done in the coming year.
Thanks.
Thank you. So the other area I wanted to highlight this evening is the great work that our students have been initiating district-wide, particularly at the high school, to engage their peers in conversations about race and equity. So at the April 25th board meeting, I believe you heard just a little bit about what was then being termed a teach-in, where students collaborated with members of the community and site administration to prepare structured conversations and dialogue that would be happening in every classroom at Albany High School. The students piloted this conversation in one classroom. They were very deliberate and thoughtful in getting feedback from teachers, meeting with teachers, getting feedback about the process. I was in communication with the principal, Mr. Rosenbaum, today, who said it's pilot no longer, and that today, actually, he shared with me the schedule of dates for these conversations, and the first one actually happened today, and there are several more dates that are scheduled in the coming weeks. Students have prepared a conversation that allows students to share their own experiences, to develop a common language around racism and terms like oppression and privilege, and engages and invites students to talk about ways to make meaningful change in their environment and in their context. I think it's really commendable that the students are really being deliberate in shifting their focus away from kind of the immediate events and really beginning to think about how to move forward with healing for the staff and particularly for the students. In addition to the work happening at the high school, I was meeting with the elementary principals last week, and they shared with me that they had also been approached by high school students who want to work with 4th and 5th graders who are looking at the curriculum that we currently have in place and want to find ways to augment that curriculum to engage in conversations with 4th and 5th graders also. The principals let me know that following that first meeting, those students have been invited to come to each of their site instructional leadership team meetings to explore that idea further. So I think in both of those examples, we can see that the students really are taking some great initiative to be change agents and to move forward to make progress around an issue that has been very devastating and very traumatic for many people. I also know that the superintendent put a couple of notes about her work with the SEAC group, and so I want to give you an opportunity also to share that.
Thank you. The Student Equity Advisory Committee was something that I had an idea about 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, to bring high school students who felt like they didn't have a voice to have that voice. And this year, the SEAC group took on the leadership of providing student voice in the local control accountability plan. And that's something that had been missing in our previous LCAP. And so this group has really taken on some strong leadership. We meet once a month during their lunch period, and they've been working with us to reach out to students to get their voice on the LCAP. When I spoke with them over the last 2 meetings, one of the things that they said they wanted to do to take on a new project for next year was in 2 areas. And one is that they're very, very interested in educating not only students, but adults around the issue of cyberbullying and social media. They're also very interested in board policy around cyberbullying, but they really believe that the people that have the most impact on younger students are students. Middle school students look up to high school students. And listening to a couple of our students say that if we think that elementary students aren't on social media, they are. In 5th grade, some students have or participate in social media. So our students really feel that if an adult speaks to a student, they may listen to us a little bit, but who they really listen to are their older peers. And so this is a group that really has taken on some leadership to work in this area, and they're very committed and passionate to doing this.
Thank you. The last I wanted to mention just was that all of our school sites have hosted or plan to host community engagement sessions with their constituents around these issues. Again, when I was meeting with the principals last week, not only are they wanting to meet about the events that occurred and how to heal and move forward and make change, but also are beginning to look at other topics that may have indirectly an impact on what has happened recently at the high school. So an example of that is the conversation that was hosted at Marin about Rancho Days, which I am new here, and so what I understand is that that's a longstanding tradition in our community, and that people want to have conversations about long-standing traditions in our community such as that. So I will be back on the 23rd of May with another update for you. We will, again, just be trying to highlight a couple of items. If there are things that you or the community want to know about particularly, please do let me know so that we can provide you with information that is relevant and useful for you as we move forward. Thank you.
Thanks. We have questions or comments from the board. Charlie?
Well, just picking up where you just were speaking, I attended both the Marin and the Ocean View community engagement evenings, and I just wanted to say they were very well run, and there was a lot of interest and enthusiasm, good attendance, and there were a lot of good ideas and good insights offered, and I'm sure we'll benefit from seeing those as they get processed and brought forward. So I just wanted to express some appreciation for those.
Thanks, Charlie. Ross?
My daughter is participating in the teach-in group, and I think it'd be fair to also give a shout out to parent volunteers, because they're working with a number of folks who just out of the goodness of wanting to see something better come out of all of this, have been spending the time with those kids, and the kids are doing the heavy lifting with the support of parents.
Thanks. Julia, do you hear anything about the teach-ins at the high school?
Yeah, I think that they've been successful. I haven't heard too much about them, but I think that students generally feel more heard on the school campus because the people that are trying to help to diffuse the tensions and to make sure people are feeling more included are coming from multiple angles and not just from the top. And I completely second what Ms. Williams said and others about having students teach other students, and something that's been commonly, I guess, wanted amongst students is for high school students to go in and talk to 8th graders and 7th graders about the potential impacts of what they can do. And I know this will be discussed later in the social media presentation, but just letting them know how easy it is to get hooked on things like social media and how easy it is to just get surrounded and not even know you're surrounded. And so I think that it's very important that students continue to be looped into this process, because ultimately we know much better than adults how we're affected by things like social media, just because it's very different now and it's ever changing.
Thank you.
There was also a showing of Screenagers this afternoon at Ocean View. And I wanted to get over to see it, and I didn't get a chance to, so I don't know if anybody had seen it. But I hear it's a very good presentation. I think the middle school has done this also in the past.
Thanks. Comments or questions from the audience?
Well, I think this is really good because I wanted to call some of you because, as the old folks say, I heard about your trouble, you know, but this is a way for me to get all of you guys. This is going to be, in my opinion, your way out of some of the potholes you have fallen in. As an SEIU rep, some of the parents that are involved are members we represent. I have had to speak on you all's behalf. And when I say had to, not because somebody hit me over the head, it's because I wanted to. I apologize for not being around as much, but I've been on disability twice in the last 18 months. So the only one of you that has any familiarity with me is Mr. Black. But I really, really care about this school. And I want you guys to be mindful not to turn on each other while you get out of this. I came to encourage you all because I care tremendously. And see, and what just happened, that whole thing, I was getting so upset. Why? Because something as big and as huge as class size reduction and the monetary value with that will impact all of the other bargaining units. We have started talking. No one has said anything to SEIU. So see, from my perspective, because of all the misfortune that's going on at the high school, people are on high. Somebody dropped that and just went here because I've been here since '08. We've only had one major brouhaha where that was talked about and it impacted all of the other units, and the district restored my folks when they got a chance. I need you guys to have faith in who you are and what you have represented, because I don't want you guys to turn on each other, and that's kind of like what Mother is seeing, you know? Because sometimes when things happen that we can't explain, the easiest way out is to blame. Now, when they were talking about the 2 classes in 1 class, I need my mama here. My mother and my father grew up in the 1-room school shack where there were 12 grades in a room half the size of this. I can tell you about that. And just like this baby was saying, that what they know about the whole media thing. But see, what you know, what you need from us is our history of how things came to be. So see, I see the answer. It's clear. All Angela wants is for you guys not to turn on each other. And I'm getting a little worried that that's what's starting to go on. Okay? I will go sit down. I don't mind, but I just had to say that, because it was just driving me nuts over there. Because I just came to say, hey, and then walked into this whole thing. And it's like, and one of the teachers tried to explain it to me because I was asking her, how can y'all have class size reduction, cut that kind of money, and nobody has said anything to me? How does that happen? And nobody was saying, how did it happen? Everybody was saying, you damn, you. And it's like, how did it happen? How did it happen? Because that's basic 101 of bargaining. Something that huge has to be on the table. It does. But nobody was talking about that. You just made it so. And it's like, and I'm trying to ask people out there, and nobody is answering me. So think about that. This has always been a district that has cared about students and class size and multicultural and a whole bunch of good stuff. Yes, what you had happen was a bad thing, but it created this. That's a good thing. And sometimes we got to go through to get out. I'm through preaching.
Thanks, Angela. It's great to see you again.
I'm also really happy this is happening. And I say that having had a heart attack when I heard that the task force was going from 12 to, so I'm looking forward to the 16th. Just two thoughts as we approach that. One, I think what the students are doing is great. And my hope is that we recognize not only the strengths of some of the students who have some experiential expertise in challenging racism, but also that we recognize that most of the students in Albany do not. And that we as adults can identify resources who can provide academic and community organizing expertise and knowledge about how racism operates in schools and in societies that can complement what the students are bringing to the table. That's something that I hope we can think about as the task force goes forward. The second thing is racial diversity also comes into the discussion of enrollment. And one thought I had is that on the interdistrict transfers, we understand that when folks apply, or at least my understanding is that when folks apply for interdistrict transfers, that relies on getting some information from some of the other districts. The districts may not all be great about providing that information in a timely fashion. And so what I would suggest is that when folks apply for interdistrict transfers, that we quickly look at those applications and identify, particularly before the end of the school year, when those applications are incomplete because information has not been provided from other districts. My hope is that if other districts, i.e. West Contra Costa County, do not respond quickly, that we can alert those parents. Those parents can go to the district during the school year rather than trying to get somebody during the summer and can get that information. That will give us more of a waiting list to work with and potentially will increase the racial diversity of our student body at the same time. So just a thought. Thank you.
Will this start again? It's 36. Okay. Okay. So my name is Nuriye Hodoligil. We moved to Albany in 2003 when my daughter was 3 months old. Now she's 14 years old. And I want to thank each one of those teachers. I have 2 kids in Albany schools, 6th and 8th grades, each one of them. I'm so thankful to them. I think they're the best part of school. So, I appreciate very much what they have done. So that's about the first part. And I hope we can keep our teachers happy and healthy mentally as well. So that's the first part. The second one is actually I want to talk about, I want to ask a 2-part question to everyone here. And I want to educate myself. I was very concerned when I received the email from the superintendent that those families are now suing the school district. So the offenders. So my question is, I want to educate myself. What happens when a family sues a school district? Who represents the school district? Who pays for it? Are we going to end up paying for it? And does the school have enough resources to go into this legal battle, or should we do crowdsourcing? Because I think that is very important. I think that, I don't want to let that kind of attitude I don't want them to get away with it, honestly. So that's the legal aspect of things. And the second is the social justice, humanity, and morality aspect of things. Those families suing the school district tells me that they're not sorry. Their kids, neither themselves nor their kids, are sorry about what happened. That's what it is interpreted. That's how I interpret it. Let me know if there's any other way to interpret it. So if they're not sorry, and if they're teaching their kids that this is okay, I'm afraid then it will also give them the message that they can keep doing this. So if they think this is their First Amendment right, which I totally don't believe, but again, that's something for the court. But whatever the court decides, then it's not the right thing. It's not the thing to teach our kids. So how are we going to reconcile in our community? It raises my hair to just to think that my kids will be going to school with some other kids who think this is okay. So racism is not a black or a brown problem, it's a white people problem. So I also volunteered myself for that task force, and I like it. I mean, it's too big right now, but I appreciate that at least for now, it gives the opportunity for people to be there, and then we can decide how to manage it. So I think it's better to say no, better than saying no. So I think that's one thing to discuss with the task force again, to talk about that white privilege and create white awareness. Thank you.
I know we can't really comment on a lawsuit, but maybe we can have some explanation of how our legal bills are paid.
So we belong to what is called the Alameda County School Insurance Group, ACSIG. And when a school district is given a lawsuit, then as part of the insurance group, we are assigned an attorney that assists us with that. So, and every school district in the county pays into the insurance group for these types of incidents that arise. And you're right, I cannot comment on the lawsuit itself, but what I want to say is the goal in our school district is to educate all of our students and to do the very best that we can so that we teach students about inclusion, about acceptance, and I will tell you personally, I don't like the word tolerance because I don't think anybody wants to be tolerated. But it is, it is the community all together, and the task force is a testimony to this, of people coming together and working towards making sure that our students get the education that they need so that they are citizens who are very inclusive and come from a place of acceptance and compassion.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joel Irvis. I'm an Albany resident, and I've been here for about 8 years and have a 5-year-old who's about to enter into kindergarten. So I was in line to say a few, perhaps maybe critical things about the school staffing ratio decision, but was reading this over and just wanted to offer a bit of praise. I know very little about what happened at Albany High. The little I've read is, of course, horrifying, but I'm sitting here and I'm reading words like racism, inequity, misogyny, prejudice, body awareness, social justice, restorative justice, and I'm thrilled. And I think it's a great step to address these types of issues head on, to be as transparent as possible, to create an environment where students and staff, members of the community can talk about this, rather than just trying to move quickly past the incident and achieve some sort of equilibrium that really isn't there if these kinds of things happen. So kudos to you all, and kudos to all the people that have been working really hard with so many others to make this happen. It's great to see, and I have a lot, frankly, of a lot more confidence about my son's experience in the school, knowing that, wow, we're going to be talking about this stuff in a really transparent fashion. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Laurent?
Good evening, board. How are you?
Good, Laurent.
All right. I'll be brief. I have a sort of a question in light of this lawsuit and what's transpired in the weeks prior. We've had a few long sessions of what you all as a board have learned, right, from the community and what you've heard. I believe both sides have sort of had a chance to speak. Might have been a little weighted towards one side, but we've heard from other people's perspective, especially sort of a precursor to what this lawsuit brings. But we certainly, and you all should expect that you have the support of the community to want to provide that safe, inclusive and welcoming environment for our children to grow up in and to learn. You know, I hope that's the biggest takeaway and that you take that responsibility seriously to uphold that. One suggestion that I would have is that we consider, I sent an email, full disclosure, to Val about this, is none of us are equipped and prepared to handle what transpired a few weeks ago. The community is really traumatized, if you will, aghast, whatever their reaction is, and the emotions have run high. I would suggest that we create sort of a lecture series for the community to hear from experts who, one, understand about cyberbullying and harassment, the whole aspect of what bullying is. And I think parents, you know, who are sending their kids into school environments need to have some background, faculty as well, staff and faculty, that we all need to get that perspective. And I think what needs to happen sooner than later. I know the task force may come up with some ideas and things of that nature, and by the time we move on that, what are we talking about, next October or something? But we really need to move on that to help this community heal and resolve, at least have some perspective on what we're dealing with and how to move forward. So I hope you really take that seriously to get the community some help. And I'm not sure if this is a city council move or whoever, where the responsibility lies, but I think at least from the school community standpoint, we need that from you all to help us move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Great suggestion. I think we will talk with the City Social Justice Commission and see if they have any thoughts on it, and maybe we can do a joint lecture series with the city. That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Zolfagari, and I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I just want to, I have a problem with sort of how bullying has been approached for the last decade. And I had a problem with the SEEDS program, and I feel like the community is ripe for something new, and I would encourage us to call out the bully culture that is so pervasive globally, and in the United States, and in parenting techniques, and in teaching techniques, and it's institutionalized, it's part of religion. We live in a bully culture, but we don't ever call it out. And my aunt just got bullied today. She texted me. And it's something that as soon as you're bigger than another child, when you're little, you can bully somebody else. And we all have power to do good or we can do harm, and we all have these two choices, but we don't teach kids. We don't say, these are the types. We want all the kids to feel equal, but the equal means that you're worthy. You have preciousness. You are deserving of all equality. But it doesn't mean. But everyone has different degrees of power. Trump, because he's rich, he's educated, he's white, has more power than many other people, than a woman like me or a person of color, and kids have a tendency to know there's power dynamics, and if you're on a playground, you see that bullying is very fluid. Sometimes there's a bully and a bullied person and a bystander and an ally, but it shifts. So bullying is very, very fluid. Even in groups of adults, I see bullying is very fluid and it's very subtle. Sometimes it's overt, but I feel like I was speaking, the last time I spoke out at this meeting was about Harvard study admitting finally their complicity with slavery. And I feel like we're at a moment that's ripe for calling out bullying, because bullying takes so many forms: pedophilia, human trafficking, torture. You know, I mean, it's just so prevalent everywhere globally. And cyberbullying is just one aspect. But to teach the kids, you have two choices. You have power. Every child has power from the time they're little till the time we are in the grave over somebody. And you can always use that power to help somebody, or you can use it to harm somebody, and sort of and we have it every single day, but we don't ever address it. So it's very frustrating to me that the bullying programs are all about the bully and the victim, and these kids said that these were their friends. So it's, you know, the kids have brought up a lot of really good information, and I feel like we need to take that information that the kids have said and run with it and admit the truth, like expose it, because the kids know it. The kids have all been bullied by their parents. As parents, we all have bullied our children. You know, we've yelled at them, coerced them, you know, so, I mean, every person has experienced being bullied and being a bully, and it's much more fluid and it's much more prevalent. So I just want to sort of bring that up as a larger discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would add to that, too, that we've talked very little about redemption. And I would say I had 3 kids who bullied me in high school, and I can't look back on my own high school experience and say I was entirely blameless on things either, but 3 guys who really stood out as really severe bullies. And at my 10th high school reunion, one of them came up to me and apologized profusely for 30 minutes. And you know, at my 25th high school reunion, I met the guy, the second bully, and his wife said, everyone's coming up to me and talking about how my husband bullied them. He's the sweetest guy, and he and I have talked a lot since. He turned out to be a good guy. Third guy I've not seen since, but he's now a minister. So something happened. And I think we have to remember that every one of the kids in this incident on all sides of the things are going to be products of Albany schools. Worst case scenario, someone's expelled from an Albany district that they were in, but they're all our kids now. And I really hope that we're looking back 20 years from now and saying, wow, they all turned out pretty good. Even the ones for whom that was a 180-degree change in life. I'm a huge believer in that. And you know, as one who with everybody else has thrown some stones as a sinner, though I say that as an atheist, I'd really like to think that we will look at everybody as their potential and not just what they've done right now and that we need to deal with right now, but toward the future and what we can help them become.
Thanks, Julia.
Just kind of going off of the topic of bullying and just kind of power plays amongst different groups of people in general, I would just like to point out the fact that a second Instagram account was created related to very sexist photos. And though I'm very pleased with how the administration handled the second account, there was much more transparency, there was much more communication. It does make me a little sad that not one person here has come and brought it up. And I think that I'd really like there to be some integration of the sexist things and the misogyny that does go on at Albany High School. And I remember the day after the account was created, I was in the office with a lot of other people who had kind of initially found the account and found it very upsetting, and none of the people were featured in the account. And they were still very, very upset. I mean, people were in tears for hours about this, and part of it is because these things don't just affect the people that are directly targeted, they affect everyone. And I think that it's really important when we're talking about restorative justice and redemption and bullying in general and how to solve this, it's how do we repair the community? You know, how do we repair the lives? How do we try and take away some of the trauma of the people that were directly affected? But also, how do we not forget those who were indirectly affected? And I think that bullying is a great way to create that conversation. And I really appreciate your comments, because I think that so often it's, you know, this isolated incident happened and this person was the perpetrator and this person was the victim, when really it's about, you know, someone did a bad thing, and I don't know if they're a bad person, never will, because I don't really know them. But it's someone did something that hurt someone else, And a lot of other people were hurt in the collateral. I mean, I know, like, personally, it's hard for me to sit and hear all of your stories and just, I'm so, I don't want to say enlightened is the wrong word, but I'm so just glad that I'm able to learn about experiences that I could never possibly imagine. But I just want to highlight that there are so many other experiences that also, couldn't possibly imagine or could imagine that we've all experienced that aren't being discussed at all. So I just would like the conversation to focus on the isolated incidents, but then also to just talk generally about bullying and kind of the things that are going on, especially the sexism also at Albany High.
Thanks. Okay, we are now running well over an hour behind schedule, and we have a scheduled presentation from the students on media literacy that I really would like to hear. And it does tie into everything that we've been talking about, so you might want to hear it as well. We have an adoption of comprehensive health and sexuality course, which also ties in, but if we don't have time for that tonight, we can table that to a later meeting. Right, we can also table the board policy 3510. But we certainly want to hear this, and in order to hear this, it's scheduled for half an hour. I think that we need to extend the meeting by at least a half an hour, at least until 9:45, if not a little bit later. Can we have a motion to do that?
If we're going to do more than just this, it seems like we really need to expect to go till 10 o'clock. And if others are willing to do that, I would move that we extend the meeting till 10 p.m.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Sanders. I'm a 12th grade student at Albany High. I'm off to Boulder next year, which is pretty exciting. So basically, after everything went down, we had a lot of discussions in our classes and kind of just next steps and ideas were brought up. And I brought up an idea because I know that there's a big knowledge gap between what kids know, especially younger kids, and what parents of the community know. Because a lot of stuff is happening on our phones and on Instagram that some parents, frankly, just don't get. And I felt that it would be beneficial to everybody to kind of give a kid's take or a younger person's take on what is happening, and kind of just explain a little more and provide some filler in for some missing information gaps. Okay, so the basic definition of a meme, as you can see, is a humorous image, video, piece of text, etc., that is copied, often with slight variations, and spread rapidly by internet users. So that can mean like a picture taken off the internet with someone who's photoshopping it and puts a little tweak on it and then reposts it. That's basically classified as a meme. Memes have been around the internet for a while. It started way back when there were kind of just meme sites just specifically for memes, but once Instagram got introduced, then that's when it really blew up because everyone now has an Instagram and everyone can see these accounts. The common sites that are used for memes: Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, which is like a big kind of site where anyone can post anything. It's basically like Facebook, but literally just for texts and image sharing, but it's not really about like having a profile. You can remain anonymous. And Facebook, of course. So I just wanted to let everybody know what the sheer numbers of some meme accounts have on Instagram. So there are thousands upon thousands of meme accounts on Instagram. Anyone can make as many Instagram accounts as they want. And it just so happens that some people get a following base, they expand, I don't even know, or else I'd probably have followers looking like this. They become popular. People start resharing these images, tagging the profile. Then people can visit this profile. So Daquan, like a very, very popular page, 8.4 million followers. That's like a lot of kids. And yeah, that's self-explanatory. So I would say there's a spectrum of meme accounts. There's the more public ones that I mentioned before, the ones that, post still funny stuff, but, appropriate for everyone, I guess you could say. And then as you go down to the more smaller meme accounts that don't have as much attention and don't have as many people liking and reposting these memes, you get specific following bases that are much smaller and like this, you see like 3,000, 1,000, and this is pretty bad, and I'm literally gonna try to blow the door open here and shed as much light as what's actually going on in basically the dark side of Instagram. I do not visit these sites. I'm just a pretty knowledgeable person, and I know what's going on. For one, I was very surprised that it reached Albany, but when I say reached Albany, I mean like reached Albany. It's around, guys. It's in our communities. It's everywhere. This offensive meme, people like getting a kick out of it, just like how they want a reaction from you, basically. And the thing about these meme accounts is that's their main goal. So and they're very good at getting a reaction from people. And if you comment, "This is so offensive, I'm reporting this," then basically you've played into their trap and you're triggered. And then everybody else who likes those memes on that page will like try to insult you on the comment section, call you like a loser, like other names I can't say right now. The goal is to, have people that shock value. Like I said, there are thousands upon thousands of meme accounts. You can make as many as you want, and if one happens to get shut down, there isn't anything stopping that person from saying, "Follow this account, I just made a new one," and they still have all those images. Like, you can just repost all of them and just start it back up from scratch. And it's untraceable by Instagram, because as long as no one reports that account again, they're gonna go by unscathed. So the Discover page on Instagram is this little, I guess, part of Instagram where you see accounts and posts of people that you don't specifically follow. If you're not following them, you won't get them on your main news feed. But if you go to the Discover page, that's how you get new accounts to follow, and that's how Instagram keeps your interest in. And Instagram, like Google Ads, I'm sure it's kind of scary when you go shopping on a site and then on another completely random site you look to the left or to the right and there's an ad of the item that you were just searching for. Instagram does the same exact thing. They take accounts that you are looking at and then they put more that are similar, have similar followers in, or it can just be, for me, it's like people that people I follow, those people's followers. So like kind of mutual, and they can But this, if you start getting into these memes and you start really like looking at them all the time, then more and more of these memes these offensive accounts and offensive memes will pop up in your Discover page, and that can be all you're seeing. Every time you go on Instagram, it can become you're just blasted in the face with it every single time. And I think after a certain point with some of these kids that were involved, it just got to be desensitized. They saw it too much. They thought, oh, it's not that bad. So I'm going to show you an example of some offensive memes that you can find thousands upon thousands upon on Instagram. And these aren't the worst, but these definitely aren't like anything to laugh at. Has everyone saw them? I can keep going. Yeah, I would love to answer any questions, and I'll try my best. Yeah.
You got to have the adults asking, I think, more of the questions. I've done quite a bit of research by just kind of looking through Instagram and looking at all of their explanations of how to start an account. What I'm not seeing is if a child or a student wants to create an Instagram account, unlike Facebook where there are parental controls, my understanding is a student can create an account and their parents may never know they have that account. Is that correct?
100% correct. All you need is an email, a username, and that's pretty much it.
What if, and also Instagram, so I just have one more question. It talks about that you have to be 13 years or older to create this account. How does Instagram, if they do, determine whether a child is over 13?
I'm not sure. They probably have, do you know? It's like some age.
You click a box and it's like, you know how sometimes when you're over 18, there's a drop down that says I'm over 18? Or if you select the not I'm over 18, you just can't create it. It's the same thing, I think, where you just click a thing that says I'm over 13, but they don't verify it.
So you can lie.
You can lie like without a second thought. You can, yeah.
If you have an Instagram account, you've got a bunch of memes on it, and I follow you, what do I see on my homepage? Do I just see your name? Do I see some of your images? What do I see?
If you're saying if I posted memes or if I just followed some meme accounts?
Posted memes.
If I posted memes
and
you were following me, every time I posted something, when you follow someone, then every time that person posts something, that image that they post will appear in your homepage.
Thanks. Okay. If you have, please come up to the lectern.
Yeah.
Yes, you can, but you need to come up.
While they're coming up, just to add one thing is kind of, and I'm sure Nate can elaborate on this a little bit more, but just the access, kind of the difference in access between age groups. So I'm 4.5 years older than my brother. I got my first iPhone, I think, in 7th or 8th grade maybe, and he got his first iPhone in 6th grade. And so he had access to Instagram. He got his first Instagram account much earlier than I had. So he's had access, significantly more access than I have, kind of compared to when I was his age, to things that Nate is talking about. And so the photos that Nate showed are photos that could very easily come up on Nate, my brother's Instagram Explore pages. And so my brother, who's 13 years old, who was, actually I think might have been 13 when he got his Instagram account, he now has seen access, or he's seen photos like, just very offensive photos, and that's what he sees every day. And so there's a big difference in what Nate and I were seeing every day versus what our siblings are now seeing every day. And I think that's really important to note, is how fast things are changing and how that's affecting the culture, and how that's affecting those who are viewing the things like that.
Exactly. The longer these kids have had iPhones and been exposed to all these offensive images, and no one's ever really told them that that's wrong, and all they know is Instagram because it's so private from their parents. It's not like, oh, mom, look at this funny like post. Those young kids are I can guarantee you are keeping that on the low, like really down low, and not showing their parents. And as you guys know, the incident with the 9th graders, those kids are young, and they're doing all these offensive gestures and everything because in my opinion, iPhones have been cheaper and around for. They must have been in 6th grade, 5th grade, even when they were getting their phones and started accessing Instagram. And from then until now, that 3 years of looking at these offensive memes, now it's finally started to surface out of them.
Okay.
Nick, can you just sort of give a guess to like what you think the average amount of time a AHS student spends on Instagram?
It's a lot. I can tell you that. I mean.
At least,
yeah.
Would you say it?
Yeah, basically, I mean, yeah.
An hour a day?
All day.
Like 3, 4, I'm not,
3 or 4.
Yeah,
It's
I can look at my
background. Like
battery.
You're
Yeah.
at dinner, you're at lunch with your friends, and everyone's on Instagram. You're all sitting. My dad always makes fun of
Yeah.
my friends and I because we'll all be sitting.
It's
on the
something that you
couch
can check and reload so easily. It's like whenever I think it plays into our generation's inability to stay focused at a certain point, because I feel myself, I try not to look at it like too much, but even I feel sometimes like when I'm bored, I just like, Instagram, and that's happening to literally everyone. I promise you that. My parents are laughing over there thinking, oh, like he's exposed, like, no, it's happening to everyone, literally.
Ross, and then we're going to go to the audience.
Yeah, two things. So it's not really specific to this particular incident, but we may really want to sit down sometime, maybe in the fall, and talk about tech in the schools as an issue. You know, my daughter was at the middle school. You wouldn't have your phone out. If your phone was out, it was taken away. The high school, I'm hearing everything from, well, as long as, it's not disruptive, you can have it on your desk, and kids are staring at their phones all day. I think that might merit rising to the level of the administration and board to sit down and say, how can we best design this system so it works well, the kids aren't distracted, they're using the tools as tools, they're not using the tools as a cop-out. So there's a well-known quote of, if you're not paying for it, then you are the product. What does it cost you to get an Instagram account?
It's free.
You are the product. So someone out there is selling to you, someone there is using your attention to their gain, et cetera. There was an article in the press within the last week about advertisers able to target based on things like mood. I'd like to put my ads in front of depressed people. I'd like to put my ads in front of depressed teens, ideally, because I'm trying to sell them whatever. There isn't a lot of altruism out there among the social media platforms, and we shouldn't expect it, and we should plan accordingly, I guess. So it's not just a coping with it, it's actually actively fighting some aspects of it.
Yeah, the school has a few measures in place to at least try and discourage kids from using their phone. On the school Wi-Fi, at least, Instagram is usually blocked or you're not able to use it, but there are multiple apps that basically create your own little like Wi-Fi hotspot thing. I'm not super like tech savvy on like the heavy computer coding side, but I know like that, what's it called? The VPN. Like lots of kids download it and then you can just use the school's Wi-Fi to do whatever you want. And with teachers, it's varying. Like some teachers are like no school, no phones at all, and then other teachers are like like pretty just relaxed about it. So it really depends.
I think it's also the precedent that the teacher sets. So I remember my sophomore chemistry class, I had Mr. Place, and because kind of when you're an underclassman, there are more restrictions around cell phone usage. And I remember he would always say, I'm not going to take your phone, but remember your phone is a tool and you should use it as such. And so kids weren't abusing, myself included, we weren't abusing our ability to have our phone out in class because we just felt bad. Nate and I are in a class right now, one of our EdSec classes, and our teacher has a phone challenge. And so every time she sees a phone out in class, she'll do a tally mark, and there's a competition between her classes, and we go whole quarters without a single tally mark because we want the donut party at the end. And we're all seniors in high school.
Yeah.
And so I think whereas there's other classes where we have all this downtime where we're not given tasks to occupy ourselves, and our default is
It's the
Instagram.
phone. Yeah. And that's been the most effective by far.
So I am a parent of 2 children here in the school district, born circa 1983, and I just want you to answer yes or no, if you can, which I think that you can because I think I know the answers myself. I have a 4th grader. She doesn't have Facebook. She won't have Facebook, and she won't have Instagram, right? That, to my knowledge, that I will know about. But if a page, Instagram is made, if you report it, you mentioned if it gets reported twice, but you will know the IP address, correct?
The IP address of the page, or in
regards to the email that they signed up with has to be linked to an IP address, and that's how you can trace.
That's not available. It has to be a certain amount of reports. I don't think it's a direct number of 2. You can report certain photos and then Instagram will take them down, or you can report an entire account. But there's no way, Instagram may have that access, but you as a Instagram user cannot see what email they use or what IP address is associated with that email.
Okay. Thank you. And for Facebook, the difference is when you report someone, they get suspended for a certain amount of time. But I think you mentioned with Instagram, if you report them, it's only for that time, right? It's just, is it immediately? If you report their account, it just goes down immediately, or after a certain amount of time, is the account, of course, suspended, and then they come back? So that's my other thing.
To my knowledge, they have a huge amount of Instagram workers that are kind of the censoring people. There's been a lot of controversy around, I guess, women's nipples in photos. There's the Free the Nipple campaign, and Instagram censors every single photo that a woman has her nipple showing. But it takes a certain few, I guess you could say, you could compare it to like a rising level of like danger or threat. Like if multiple people keep reporting a page, then Instagram's gonna get notified. But just because you report it doesn't mean the whole account's gonna get immediately shut down. It could take from an hour or to multiple days.
And then my last question is, isn't it true that with an Instagram, given all the ramifications that you just mentioned, that there are actually fake accounts out there that are not really official accounts? So you could make an account and say that it's me, but then it's truly not me, and there's nothing that I could actually really do about it.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of fake accounts out there, kind of like ads pretending to be people almost. I get a lot of weird, like, I have no idea why these accounts follow me, but it's like, I guess like a attractive woman wanting like to follow me and like click this link and like pay me for like whatever, you know, like, And I'd never do anything. I just block the account. You can block the account, and then you will not be. You won't see any of what they post, and they won't be able to follow you or try to contact you.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Because I think you asked a very important one. On Instagram, can I create a fake account and say it's her?
Like, so easy.
Thank you.
Thanks. And just a general comment, I just wanted to say that I know probably despite me clapping back there in the corner when I agree with something, I'm not in high school, so I don't use those silence fingers, and I don't plan on to. But I am glad that at least this board meeting, this time around, I was actually able to see a lot of the board members emote. And I feel like I haven't seen you guys really do that for all these meetings that I've been to. So I do want to say I do appreciate that, because it does make me think a little bit that you're not so much worried about your image. Because as I said, I've been to a couple of these, and that was really starting to get worrisome. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Just to answer, I did a little bit of research about reporting, and the kind of most common website that came up said you may only report someone if they have legitimately broken one of Instagram's guidelines or terms and conditions. Nothing will happen as soon as you report it. However, once a member of the Instagram team has taken a look into the report, then in bold, only if they've broken the rules will something happen. It doesn't always resort in that user being banned. They may simply give them a warning and be allowed to continue to use the service. The cases in which you may report a user are hacked accounts, impersonation accounts, underage children, hate accounts, intellectual property, exposed private information, self-injury, abuse and spam, exploitation, other types of reports, and back. So it's pretty vague. So they could easily say, if you report it under hate account, because when you report, they ask under which condition are you reporting. If you say hate account, the person at Instagram decides it's not a hate account, then they could easily say, nope, this doesn't break one of the rules, we're not going to take it down. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Shannon. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you. I have my own Nate, a second grader, and although I'm freaking out about all of this technology stuff, I would love it if he's as well-spoken and thoughtful as you when he's in high school. My question is in Instagram, Instagram. So if you and I are classmates and you have an account and I follow you, and then you make another account, do I automatically follow that, or does that come to me? How would I then come to follow this new thing?
Unless if I made this new account, I could follow you with this new account. You would have to request to follow me. You would either have to find my account some way through the Discover page, which is how you would probably find me, unless I tagged you in a photo, or I tagged this account on my main account that you follow. You click on my profile, then you would see my second account. Then you could follow. Or does that make sense?
Okay, so just quick.
Yeah.
So then, if you follow me with your new account, do I have any say in whether or not I want your new account to be
Yeah, if you have a private account, that means so you have follow requests. There's a check and an X. Okay. You can either accept it or check it. And famous people or celebrities have millions of followers and then are only following 100 people or something. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, I want to echo what Shannon said, that thank you for being here to interpret this for me. I have a fourth grader and a second grader, and this is also freaking me out. So I totally understand what you're saying about if you comment on an offensive post and say, this is wrong, or say something that we all hope our children or all people would call out and say, not cool, stop it, that then you become the target. So that's therefore not really the best way to go unless you want to get trashed yourself, right? So then what what do you do? What do I tell my children to do? I'm guessing, and by the way, my children are not going to come anywhere near this for a very long time. But in the event, it will come a day when they will. So what do I tell them? Don't report, don't comment, but how do they report effectively, or how do we battle this?
That's the thing. Basically the most effective thing to do is to block that account and just stay away from it. I mean, you can try to report it. And as long as you don't comment, this is like so hurtful, why would you do this? Then the people are not gonna like comment at you like, oh, like loser, like triggered, like they're not gonna say stuff like that. If you just like silently like report and then block it and then just leave. And if it comes to a point where it's a personal account where people that you know, you've been accepted into this account, and then you see these horrible images being posted about people you know, you can easily screenshot and then forward that to whoever is the disciplinary figure, which is one of the reasons why I never really accepted any one of the followers or the likers' apologies saying, oh, all I did was follow it. There's like a lot of stuff that you need to do to like let this account follow you, and then it's not like you're not seeing any of the images or you're not participating. If you like a photo, it's, yeah, you're on it. Like.
And to add, so to like a photo, you have to tap it twice. So this whole argument, like, oh, we just scrolled through and liked it, like you have to physically touch the heart button or tap the screen twice.
It's not something that you can just like scroll through, like, unless you're like really like, but I don't know anyone that just like scrolls through super fast. It'd be like flipping through a page of a book like as fast as you can. You don't even see what's happening. I know if I'm on Instagram, I'm gonna look, and if that thing entertains me, I'll like it. And it's not some process that I'm just gonna mindlessly like, I'm not gonna mindlessly comment. You have to press the comment button, type your comment, send it. It's not something that you can just do like willy-nilly, especially following it too.
Yep.
You have to send a request. They accept your request. You get a notification when they accept your request. So then you can see the account. You see the account, you say, oh, what the hell? This is super offensive. This is whatever. You report, you screenshot, you do everything that this literally you can make things happen within seconds, minutes of seeing that account. That's why I can't take any of these apologies.
Can I ask a kind of related question? We hear an awful lot of research that talks about a young person's brain formulating and this sort of impulsivity. If you were to give a message, and I'm going to go back to what Julie had said about having kids really respond, younger kids respond to older kids. Do you believe that a high school student can speak to younger high school students or even middle school students so that they understand the serious nature of being on social media and being responsible? Do you think they would hear that message better from a peer versus like if we brought in, say, like someone who's an expert on cyberbullying?
I think personally, I would, if I was a younger kid, I would relate more to at least someone around my age, because if it's an expert on cyberbullying, they're an expert on bullying and cyberbullying, but not necessarily the platform and the iPhone and Instagram and stuff like that. So you have to like take what they're saying with a grain of salt. You can't like, but even that, I mean, you could give me an hour and a half presentation. I'd be like, and then I just there's nothing. You know, like I can just pull out my phone and just like, you can warn me, you can do whatever, you can scold me, but then in reality, as soon as I leave the room or go home, I can just go back to my memes, you know, like there's no stopping it.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I agree. When I told the SEAC kids that I was on Facebook, I got laughed at because I was on Facebook and nobody else is on Facebook.
Kim?
I'll try to be fast here. So I do have an Instagram account, and I know that if you push the ... at the top of any picture, you get a little pull-down menu, and report is one of those. And my understanding is that you can report any post anonymously.
Exactly.
And then the Instagram censors will take a look at it and maybe pull it down.
Maybe, you know, you can imagine with however many million Instagram accounts, break that down, like there's probably an account being reported every second,
I bet. But is that common? I mean, I don't follow anybody that I need to report.
Yeah.
But is that typical behavior? Like, you know, like, have you ever reported something and had them pull it down? Or
Yeah,
have you, Julia?
I mean, if it's of like, honestly, like, to most kids, it's kind of used as just something that you do. Like if, like, let's say, like I can say that I've like someone's posted like a bad photo of me or something, some like a weird post or something, and then I didn't want that. I'd like get kind of mad and then like just like like do report like spam or whatever, and just be like delete this or whatever. But it's never, I don't think I've ever used it in like a serious, like, I need to report this. Just because, I mean, I know that like, there's probably lots of people reporting that account already if it's offensive, and one more of these like, I mean, I guess I can try to do whatever I can do, but it's like a losing battle. I don't know, like.
I think also the accounts that we would be reporting, if they were to be big enough and have enough popularity that they have the amount of followers they did, they would likely have a lot of photos they've posted. And if it's just like the accounts that Nate was showing that were just offensive accounts, that was one of many photos. And so I kind of feel like Nate was saying, like, it's kind of a hopeless cause to report things, because it's like, okay, I'm reporting another photo on this account that's offensive when the account is filled with offensive photos that have probably already been reported. Like, it's kind of just the cycle of like,
I mean, you can spend all day going through Instagram reporting photos, and you may not even see any of those photos go away. So the best thing you can do is block and just stay away, basically.
disassociate, which is like being a bystander.
So I'm just going to make a quick comment and also ask you one question. So just to add, which I don't think anybody has, Instagram also does videos. So there are videos and video memes. I know my daughter has 3 or 4 accounts. I don't know if she closed one or not. I know one's just of her dog pictures. The rule that I have, and I think parents also need to be more engaged with this, is that she has to friend me, or she has to have me as a member of her group, of whatever accounts she has. Otherwise, she doesn't have her phone or loses internet access at the house. So that's one comment I wanted to add. The other part that I had actually spoken with somebody who indirectly works with Instagram. They asked if the school board was in any direct contact with Instagram. I don't know exactly, it didn't flesh out to find out exactly what they do or what they could do. And so I just, that was kind of a question.
I can answer you just for myself.
Sure.
I went on the Instagram site just to see if I could either call or email somebody. I spent, I'd say, around 4 hours on a Saturday going through every single link information section, and the only place where I was able to even get maybe an email out is if I wanted to report something that was not posted correctly, or if I was in law enforcement and had a valid subpoena there is not a single place I could find that had a phone number or an email that I could get to. And I have to tell you, I was shocked. I actually sent an email and I went to the wrong place.
Well, that was going to be my other comment, was just that this social media, I think what is lacking and what we're trying to grasp here is the social responsibility that comes with it as well. And so I think while it does feel like a losing battle, as it does in this country almost every day when bad news comes out, I do think it is important and worthwhile to maybe have a class, a workshop, and I know the kids are going to glaze over when they hear about it, but there's serious darkness in Instagram. There's serious harm, as this community well knows and is going to be dealing with for many years. And we need to educate not just ourselves, but also our children at those things. It's the same reason we try to protect our kids in all different areas, and I could go on and on about it, but in our social media account, we do have to work, I think, on letting the kids know that there is danger there and what they can do to protect themselves in terms of not clicking on things that look silly or just trying to grasp them. And on top of that, understanding that comments especially, and I know everybody reads newspaper comments, and they get really nasty and horrible, and there's just a big troll culture that's developing in our country, how to deal with that. And I think helping the kids know how to deal with it, what to do, who do they call? That was one of the issues in this situation. Who do you call? Since Instagram doesn't, you have to click to report something, who the hell do you call if you are targeted, in those kind of ways? So my question was going to be, because this cyberbullying has been tied through many news reports to suicides in other places. Thank God this hasn't gotten to this point, and that's definitely something we don't want to happen. But I was going to ask you if you felt like there has been, outside of this, of the big situation in question, bullying that can or does occur through Instagram and other social media.
To my knowledge, there hasn't really been much bullying through Instagram accounts. Well, I mean, actually, can you think of any specific, recent? It's not like, it's sometimes there'll be like a comment like, oh, you look like stupid or something, and then there'll be like a fight in the comments or something. Yeah.
My daughter was bullied 3 times on Instagram this year by 3 different accounts. So it does happen.
Oh, I didn't mean, speaking like, I guess previously to this, I know it does happen. Okay.
And I think another thing to elaborate on is, I know, sir, you mentioned that you follow. I don't want to. Your daughter's going to hate me for bringing this up.
She's not watching.
But there is a component of Instagram that is not accessible to the people following the account. Do you want to cover that?
Yeah. There is another feature of Instagram called direct message, where you can message someone from their profile, from your profile. So it's not like getting their number or anything where you need to ask for that, but I can go on any page and on anything and then direct message them. So if you were to comment on one of these offensive meme accounts saying this is so offensive, take this down, or why are you posting this stuff? Then all those followers have the opportunity to direct message you saying or just hurtful things. You have to deal with the masses, the horde after that.
And I think freshman year, I want to say, our freshman year, There was, so you can create DM groups, which is like personal direct message between, 3, 4, 5 people, however many people are invited into the group. And so I remember there was an instance at Albany specifically where there were girls and there were screenshots of their photos and they were posted in the direct message group. And then all these senior guys were like talking about their selves in ways they shouldn't. And I remember that was a kind of the big thing that happened. I forget if it was freshman, sophomore year, but there is, there's the public part of Instagram and there's the private part of Instagram. And both of them can be problematic and are problematic in a lot of ways.
I think this is all very problematic, and just hearing his explanation shows how unwieldy it can be if you're trying to control this by clicking the 3 dots and reporting and somehow thinking somebody in Facebook, which is part of Instagram, is going to somehow take down some photos and be the police and ride in and take this away and protect our children. I think it all comes back to what do we, as adults and institutes that are in charge, do to make it known what the consequences are for abuse. I don't think we're ever going to be able to get away from that. I mean, there's 3 words here. We got responsibility, the state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or having control over someone. Discipline, the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior. Using punishment to correct disobedience. Rehabilitation, the act of restoring someone. Rehabilitation, the act of restoring someone to former status or reputation after a period of disfavor. It still comes down to the board upholding its duty to make known by action and enforcement of its policies in accordance to the EDGE codes, that there's 0 tolerance for any student's direct involvement in egregious acts that undermine a safe learning environment and does psychological harm and or threaten the physical well-being of other students. Just that whole aspect of it, we're never going to get away from this because Facebook is like MS-DOS. There's so many applications being created. We're not policing that. You're trying to teach children how to be decent. And this whole cyber aspect of it, and all of this that we're talking about now, we still have this pall of the case and hearing kind of hanging over us. If there's any status on where that is or when that'll come to an end, I'd surely like to know. But here we are, and like I said, it comes down to having our responsibility to impose discipline, and it's not about trying to rehabilitate anybody because they made a mistake or they liked a few things and they didn't know that they shouldn't. They could report that account or not do it. Photo editing and posting takes some doing, right? Yeah. You really, when you do.
Especially if you're making the photos.
Right, right.
Even liking, commenting, that takes.
It's not trivial.
No.
It's not a slip of the finger.
No, especially not a comment unless no one randomly throws
Right.
their fingers at
Yeah.
You actually need to think that was funny. Think it in
Okay,
your mind.
maybe we can't hear you because you're not on the microphone.
Sorry.
And we're going to have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
You can finish your comment now.
Oh, I was just saying that, yes, commenting does take some thought. It's literally basically just the media form of saying something. If that thought gets in your head, just travels to your fingers, and then you write it on the account, it's basically like showing your support. Like.
Okay, Nate, thank you very much. Sorry?
Status, are we anywhere near knowing when this pall that's hanging over us may be settled as far as?
We don't.
You don't know?
Why don't you come up after the meeting? It'll be just a few more
Great.
minutes, and we can tell you what we can tell you.
Thank you.
So
Okay, we
I
need to
just
extend the
wanted
meeting for a few more
to
minutes.
thank Nate. It was really a great presentation.
Thank you, Nate. We learned a lot. Okay, can we extend the meeting by another 5 minutes so we can finish up here?
And would we just do the one action item then?
We'll do the one action item. First, I need a motion to table item 2 under review and discussion to be brought back at another meeting. I'll make
move
the
that.
motion. Can we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. And while we're at it, can we table item number 2 under review and action to be brought back at a later
So
meeting?
moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so we have the one item that we need to do tonight, collective bargaining agreement with Albany Teachers Association.
Thank you, President Black. I'm going to turn this over to Cynthia Tia, who is our Director of Human Resources, who will discuss, bring this item to the board for action.
I was just going to ask if you had any questions. The information about what you're going to be voting on is in the board packet.
Okay, so
Yeah,
any questions for Ms.
I
Atia?
found the board packet information to be very comprehensive. Thank you.
Okay, so the action we need is approval of the tentative agreement with the Albany Teachers Association for 2016-17 and 2017-18 fiscal years with the board.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Going back to the, I don't know if it was April 4th or April 18th, when there was a discussion about the pending budget shortfall for the next year. When those calculations were made, was more or less this packet incorporated into that? Not exactly, but was there some assumptions about what this packet would be when you came up with that calculation?
No.
So do you have a sense of whether this will, what effect this will have on the shortfall going forward?
This agreement, long-term, is a mutually beneficial agreement, and this does not significantly change positively or negatively the budget priorities process that we're going to need to go forward with.
Well, I understand it won't change the prioritization. I'm just asking, do you have a sense of whether it will affect the amount of the budget shortfall in a dramatic way? If you don't anticipate a dramatic change in what you were predicting, that's fine. I'm just, yeah.
No, in a significant way, it would not impact.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the agreement with the Albany Teachers Association?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. That brings us to agenda items, matters introduced by the board.
Thank you. We have 2 items that we are moving to another agenda. That is the health and sex ed course instructional materials, as well as the Green Schools operation. There are 2 requests that the agenda committee needs to consider: a staff report on the trauma grant and the services provided. And the second one was the discussion process for the rebuilding of Marin and Ocean View.
So, say that one again?
This was the discussion around the rebuilding of Marin and Ocean View was brought up by Vice President Stapleton
and
Gray.
I would second that, and I actually would hope that we could have some discussion about that this school year and not wait till the fall. We need to get to that item.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of other things we need to get to also, but that's really important.
Good. Okay, thanks. All right. Any other agenda items? Okay, meeting is adjourned.